This top story this hour. The U.S. Supreme Court released a ruling this hour saying Donald Trump will remain on Colorado's presidential ballot, rejecting a state Supreme Court decision that barred him from the election.
All 9 justices of the Supreme Court agree that states cannot kick candidates off the ballot under the 14th Amendment, passed after the Civil War, held that people who had sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection are banned from holding federal office further. And what the Supreme Court said is that states can't enforce that it requires Congress to pass a law to it.
That's ABC's Terry Moran. This opinion, he says, is a per curiam opinion, meaning there's no specific identified author among the justices. Police are still working to figure out what led up to a workplace shooting that left 2 people dead at a business in Salt Lake. The shooting happened yesterday at Varick's Imaging near 17th South and 27th West. Salt Lake City Police spokesperson Brent Weisberg says the 2 were already dead when officers arrived.
One of the victims was found outside and the other was found inside. The person who was found outside, our officers located a firearm near that individual.
A Varick's Imaging spokesperson later told KSL the alleged shooter was one of 2 people killed. Hundreds of Utah National Guard troops are headed to Djibouti in eastern Africa. Nearly 300 soldiers will be gone for a year, the unit's largest deployment in over a decade. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ, both trending down at this hour. And we're still dealing with some scattered snow showers, and that will continue through the day. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:03.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Are you stressing about your IRS tax problems? Have you received notices from the IRS threatening to garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, or seize your property? You need an ally. Allies Tax Relief has tax attorneys and enrolled agents that are ready to fight for you. They have saved millions for taxpayers just like you. Allies Tax Relief can help put a stop to IRS collections and, most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Brenda, a happy client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS around $57,000, and they're about to start garnishing my paychecks. I heard a commercial on the radio about Allies Tax Relief, so I thought I'd give them a call. After a day, they were able to at least stop the garnishments, and after a few months of negotiations, I walked away owing the IRS only $301.
If you owe the IRS, call Allies Tax Relief right now for your free consultation. Call 800-230-5174. 800-230-5174. That's 800-230-5174.
This is what you've been waiting for. Well, I know some of you have. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and we don't usually experience a slow season, but when we do, it's this time of year when the weather's transitioning from winter to summer. You see, when the weather's mild, HVAC demand slows, but we still need calls for our technicians, and that's why we run our free furnace sale. Here's how it works. When you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services by March 31st to schedule a free estimate with one of our HVAC supervisors. They'll explain all your options and exactly how much you can save on a new furnace and air conditioner. Again, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services today and schedule your free estimate, 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
Check out AMCO's multiple financing options so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
We have emergency traffic now, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
is getting hammered right now, and the snow has moved north from the Spanish Fork, Springville area all the way up into Provo, Orem. Traffic moving extremely slowly both directions. But if you are heading southbound between Provo and Springville, all traffic is stopped right now. We've had at least 8 or 9 vehicles that spun off or crashed right as you approach the US 6 Springville exit. They're still in Springville, but they're approaching that US 6 Spanish Fork area. So got huge delays right now. That's the area you want to avoid, is southern end of Utah County. Get your money working at America First Credit Union with amazing rates on certificates up to 5.5% APY for a limited time. Visit americafirst.com today to learn more. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, a few more snow showers today. Tuesday will be dry, but there's a chance of rain or snow again Wednesday and Thursday. And right now, we're at 30 degrees with snow falling. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, former President Donald Trump finally has a court rule in his favor, and it is the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court of the United States, making that announcement just about an hour or so ago, that President Donald Trump, former President Trump, can be on the ballot going forward. There have been some arguments across several states, Colorado, Illinois, and Maine. They were trying to disqualify him, but the Supreme Court said, no, can't do that.
And I think this is a massive, massive rebuke to these lower courts, especially in the states. The fact that even though you have a split court in the Supreme Court, you have 6 conservative justices, 3 liberal, and they all agree that Trump absolutely deserves to be on the primary ballot. Again, a massive rebuke. It's 9:08. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are the 3 things Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
I didn't go anywhere in Utah this weekend that people weren't talking about that wild wind on Saturday, which turned into tumbleweed terror in South Jordan and Eagle Mountain. Tumbleweeds piling up created these massive privacy walls, just locked in homeowners inside their homes because those tumbleweeds were piling up everywhere. I've never seen anything like it. And then the question becomes, well, how do you clear these things out? We're actually tracking down answers from city halls today during the show, Dave.
This was a great way to describe it, was the privacy wall,
Yeah.
because you could barely see the homes in some cases. They were stacked up so high. The cleanup, I would imagine, is an absolute nightmare because these aren't fun little fluffy balls of cotton. These are stickery, big, large, take up a lot of space. You can't just do it yourself. This is where the state's got to step in, or at least the county, the city, to help some friends out.
Countdown. 2.
Well, I think this Supreme Court decision was well placed. It needed to happen today, which is, of course, one day before Super Tuesday, and it did. The Supreme Court of the United States saying that former President Trump can be on the ballot in all states. So this clears up that legal question that's been asked by a couple of states. They were trying to use the 14th Amendment to keep him off the ballot, saying, he participated in or incited an insurrection on January 6th regarding the attack on the U.S. Capitol. We do expect the former president to take to the microphone right in about our 10 o'clock hour, and we'll take it live when it happens.
I think another thing it does, it sends a very strong message to states that may be trying to find ways to keep Trump off the ballot, that he can do it. He can be on the ballot. You can't, through all your legal maneuverings, just remove a candidate. That's going to fall on the voters. And that is a very strong message. And I think Trump's going to take quite the victory lap today.
Launch. Countdown. 1.
Speaking of Super Tuesday, it's tomorrow already. Neighbors gathering for the Republican presidential preference polls here in Utah. There's 2,500 gathering spots across the state, Dave. And because Republicans decided on this neighborhood caucus system this year. saying that presidential candidates are notably more present under the caucus system, that many have already spent time here in Utah. Well, Nikki Haley has, but she was here last week. Where is the Donald, though?
This is a chance where Utah can show the country the direction that we want to go. We will have a female president of the United States. It's either going to be me or Kamala Harris.
Echoing something I heard from her when we met with Nikki Haley just last week with the KSL Deseret News editorial board. And she is, I think this is a big deal. If she can somehow generate the support of Utah that has a very complicated relationship with Trump, although we're very conservative as a state and large, we haven't loved and thrown our unconditional support around Trump. So to see what bubbles up, I think will be a real insight into where the rest of the country is leaning. If Utah goes Nikki Haley, all bets are off.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
Well, I think it is a big deal, Dave, as you said, that SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, has cleared the air one day before Super Tuesday in favor of former President Trump, that he can be on the ballot in all states. So that has been resolved. Let's talk about tomorrow night and how this will play in at all with the caucus nights here across Utah, and how this will play for Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. She was just here last week.
At some point, if Republicans really want to get this back on track, we've got to acknowledge that maybe it's him. Maybe Donald Trump is the reason we keep losing.
Now, most Americans, polls have shown this, and 60% of Utahns think that all of these legal troubles that Donald Trump's dealing with are politically motivated. And quite frankly, that's exactly what the Supreme Court has ruled, is this is a political maneuvering. It's unconstitutional. You can't do it.
And they said without action from Congress first. They were clear about that.
Of course.
They cannot invoke this post-Civil War constitutional provision to keep presidential candidates from appearing on ballots. So what that says to me, we'll learn more about this from Greg Skordas, our legal analyst, when he calls the show, that Congress would have to act first before the states can take it upon themselves to disqualify any candidate from a ballot. So we have that ruling now in hand, expecting the former president to speak in our 10 o'clock hour. But there's probably a lot of confusion for some about how tomorrow night's caucuses will work. And it's different for the Democrats than it is for the Republicans. So we're going to take an in-depth look at how this will all shake out next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Rick at loansbyrick.com has some important information for anyone in Utah and Idaho who's thinking of buying a house. Do it now. Don't wait until summer, because home prices in those two states will likely increase by 10 to 20% due to in-migration from California and other states. That means a house that costs $400,000 right now will go up by 40 to 80 grand with multiple offers. Interest rates may drop later in the year, possibly to the 6% range, but the increased cost of the home will mean that your monthly payments will go up by a lot. So start looking and buy now. Refinance when the interest rates go down. Waiting to buy your home will only hurt you in the long run. For more details and buying strategies, call Rick at loansbyrick.com right now. 801-809-SAVE. Rick can evaluate your situation and get you on the path to buying a home today. 801-809-SAVE or click loansbyrick.com.
Rick Kirschenbaum, NMLS 241179 and Vintage Lending NMLS 287106 are equal housing lenders. Some restrictions apply.
The Cougars are fighting for their best chance in the Big Dance.
BYU's displayed its resiliency throughout this campaign.
The Big 12 tournament is days away, and then it's the NCAA tournament. This Wednesday, it's BYU, Iowa State. Pre-game is at 5 and tip-off at 6 on Utah's legacy home for the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
You're the yard work hero, aligner of edges, trimmer of hedges, and slayer of weeds. When it comes to your lawn, Power moves are the only moves you make. That's why you just applied IFA's Crabgrass Preventer plus Lawn Food for quick green-up and long-lasting weed prevention. IFA's Crabgrass Preventer plus Lawn Food. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move.
American energy is under attack. Joe Biden has waged a war on American natural resources and made it harder to produce affordable, reliable, and clean energy right here in Utah. Our energy prices are already going up. Biden's policies will make it worse. But Republican John Curtis has our back. There is no greater supporter of unleashing American energy than John Curtis. John Curtis knows our abundant natural resources help keep us free and safe, powers our economy, keeps the lights on, and keeps Utah on the move. John Curtis is Utah tough. He's taken the fight to Joe Biden and the Washington politicians who all want to hurt American energy. And now we need a conservative to take the fight to the United States Senate. We need Republican John Curtis, a strong defender of American energy dominance in the fight for us.
Paid for by Clear Path Action Fund. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
For over 80 years, Farm Bureau Financial Services has been protecting farmers and ranchers season after season.
You need to know you're covered and you've got somebody covering your back.
You've got local people that everybody knows.
And we have a good policy and a good agent, and I guess that's what you need to be able to sleep at night.
Loyal, local, and rooted in ag for over 80 years. Learn more at fbfs.com/rootedinag. It's your future. Let's protect it.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm energized by breaking news. First of all, because it's right now, and second of all, because in many cases the audience needs to know. There's no more important service that we can provide, and I find it critically important to get more details to the audience as quickly as possible. There's nothing more energizing than that for me. Not at all. The most important thing we do is breaking news. I am gratified that so many people listen to me every afternoon on KSL, but what they don't know is that there are so many people behind the scenes making it happen, checking on the traffic, answering the phones, making the calls, talking to the newsmakers. They're out in the street, into the field to get the raw information, and then putting it all together so that I can sit in front of a microphone and be a source of information every afternoon. But there are so many people who make it happen. That's what you don't know.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
See traffic brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app, and traffic is stopped southbound I-15 in Utah County for 3 miles. This is just as you leave Provo, go through all of Springville. It's due to an earlier crash as you approach the US 6 Spanish Fork exit. All those vehicles have now been cleaned off the roadway, and UHP just barely let all the lanes of travel start going again southbound I-15 between Springville and Spanish Fork, but it's going to take a lot of time for those backups to clear out as snow continues to pound Utah County. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the U.S. Supreme Court says Colorado can't prevent former President Donald Trump from running in its Republican primary. Second, 2 people are dead after a workplace shooting at Varex Imaging near 17th South and 27th West. Salt Lake City police say there's no threat from that to the general public. Third, hundreds of Utah's National Guard troops are headed to Djibouti, the unit's largest deployment in over a decade. Right now, 30 degrees and snow in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
It's a big day tomorrow all across the U.S. And right here in Utah. And if you're a Republican, you're going to caucus night. You're going to meet your neighbors. All those folks you've never met before. They're supposed to be gathering at 2,500 different precinct locations all across Utah. Hundreds of locations. Check-in starts right around 6 o'clock. The meetings start at 7 o'clock. And one of the things that caught my eye, Dave, about the caucuses is how you can qualify to participate. It was on KSLNewsRadio.com. We have an awesome layout of everything you need to know about Super Tuesday on KSLNewsRadio.com. And I clicked on one of the links, and it took me to the Republican Party page. You have to be registered as a Republican to participate, and you have to be turning 18 years old or 18 years old on or before the day of the general election in November. So even 17-year-olds could participate tomorrow.
Yeah, this is going to be the first time I actually attend a caucus night here in my neighborhood. I think this is going to be really interesting. Another little layer, I've got an 18-year-old. He's a senior in high school. Yeah, you get to come along with Dad tonight, buddy. You get to do tomorrow night. Yeah. So
you guys got to line up early.
Trust me, I'm telling him tomorrow.
Just so you tell
There's
him
no
today for
excuse. So, like, buddy, we're just going. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting experience for me because I think, like a lot of Utahns, we just have never done it.
So on the Republican, I guess is it a ballot? Is that what they're doing? Is that what it's called? Presidential preference poll? Is that what it's called? Taylor Morgan of KSL at Night, live on the line. You know, you're kind of our anti-caucus guy, right? You're kind of like, oh my goodness, we're going back.
Debbie, I am vice precinct chair of the Fightin' 27th, the best precinct in Draper, and
that's amazing.
I can't believe you would besmirch me like that, Debbie. How dare you?
Well, I think we've had a conversation before when we were talking about this, and it just felt a little old school that they're going back to caucus nights, and you had some heartburn saying that in the past, very few people show up to these meetings.
Yeah, you're right, Debbie. Very few do. I have to apologize for my voice. The legislative session ended at midnight on Friday, and it's going to take me a couple weeks to recover. But I will say that at the Republican caucus meetings starting tomorrow night, check-in will begin at 6 p.m. The meetings themselves will begin at 7. Everyone can find their caucus location at caucus, CAUCUS, caucus.utah.gov.
Okay, stop right there. KSLNewsRadio.com. We have it right there on the front of the page. Taylor, I know you didn't know that, but I looked at that article we've written up. It is incredible. We've got so much information, and I posted it to Facebook. Yeah, so instead of giving out like a whole bunch of letters and numbers for our listeners to go to, just tell them to go to KSLNewsRadio.com. But continue on with your thought.
Yeah, so at the Republican meetings, Republicans will cast a presidential preference vote at their neighborhood caucus meetings. Also, I would note very importantly, even though some might argue that our presidential election, the primary election right now, isn't maybe as competitive as some would have hoped, we are still going to take some very important votes electing our county and state delegates as well as precinct officers at caucus meetings tomorrow night. We know that we have very competitive U.S. Senate and congressional races that those state delegates and county delegates will have a very important role in nominating those candidates. So even if you're a Republican and you're not really feeling like the presidential race is something to be excited about, you should still go to caucus to make sure you help elect your delegates.
How long should I plan for this to go on? Is this going to be an all-night thing? I know it starts at 7. Is it going to be done by 8?
Well, Dave, not all precinct officers are quite as efficient as I am. I like to get in and out in about a half hour at most.
Wow. Can I come to yours?
No, you can't. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, that's true. You can't.
You have to go to your own, and you can find that location at KSL.com, KSLNewsRadio.com.
We'll get there, Taylor. Go ahead.
Trying, Debbie. I'm trying.
I know.
Really about an hour, I think. You know, if you get there early, get checked in, make sure you give yourself time to find your location. Typically, you're going to show up to a local elementary, junior high, or high school. You'll check in at the lobby and give yourself a few minutes to find the right classroom or auditorium. And that meeting will start at 7 p.m.
Okay, so let's talk about the structure of this. And I want to focus on the presidential race, Nikki Haley and Donald Trump on the ballot for the Republican ticket. So how will that work? When you get in a room with your neighbors, will you be able to shout at each other, or shout over each other and try to convince each other why you should prefer one candidate over the other? Is that how that goes? Or is it a little piece of paper everybody privately goes in a corner and writes on? I mean, give us a visual on this.
For the presidential preference vote, voters will be making that vote in private. on paper, and then they'll submit those votes to the precinct officers, and those will be tallied through proper protocol there by the precinct officers and watchers. It won't be a live debate back and forth, so to speak, Debbie.
Okay.
Those votes will be cast in private on paper. And then the precinct officers will move the meeting along to electing new precinct officers and new county and state delegates after the presidential preference vote.
Did you say there was a consistency in the way they tally it up or take the votes? Does everyone have to play by the exact same rules from precinct to precinct?
Yeah, the county parties establish very specific rules for what needs to happen and how those votes should be counted and then turned in to the county party officers. Now, here's perhaps where I put my caucus hater hat on, Debbie.
Okay.
Look, we have, despite the best efforts of the county Republican parties, this is all done on paper. It is old school. This process is really a relic of a past century. We simply don't have the oversight and security protocols that we would in a publicly administered primary election. So parties do the best they can. As a precinct officer myself, I do the best I can. But we're operating as if we were doing this still in the 19th century.
Taylor, there is a little twist on this. Say, for example, you can't make it to caucus night. You can send your vote or a representative. There's something along those lines that you can do.
You can technically cast a absentee ballot. You can find the instructions to do that at utgop.org. You have to print out a form, fill it out. You also have to photocopy front and back a copy of your state-issued identification.
Wow.
You have to submit that in an envelope, and then they sign the back of the envelope, and then you send it with a trusted family member or neighbor to your caucus precinct, your precinct caucus location. Not an easy process, a little bit challenging for a lot of folks. And we know historically that a very, very small percentage of party voters participate in caucus, which is why it's so important that we do have the signature path to the primary election ballot as well.
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for jumping on the line. We'll let you jump off now and, I don't know, sip on some hot tea and honey there for your voice. Thanks so much for explaining what tomorrow night holds for Dave and his family and so many other people across Utah.
Yeah, Debbie, I thought it was going to be an easier process, at least to send it if I couldn't make it. I got pickleball
by proxy.
league. Yeah, I got pickleball on Tuesday. I was hoping that I could vote by proxy, but after he described like a 17-step process of going to the website and downloading and signing and photocopying, I've just got to go. I'm going to go in person. I'm going to experience it with my family.
It'll be super cool, too. I mean, it's not...
I hope.
It's something that you haven't done before.
Yeah.
It's an experience for... You said you're taking your son with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it sounds really cool. And then you can report back to us on Wednesday what it was all about for you and your family.
Yeah, I think it will... The turnout is very interesting to me. I will be very, very interested to see if it's a big turnout, if it's nothing, and kind of catch the vibe of folks.
Don't forget, 10 o'clock hour, we're expecting the former President Donald Trump to say a few things about his victory that the Supreme Court ruled this morning that he can be on the ballot in all states. There were 3 notable states, Colorado, Illinois, and Maine, that were challenging his legal status to be on the ballot based on what happened on January 6th. But the Supreme Court has settled that score and come out and said, no, he can be on the ballot. We'll have more on that. Until noon today, we'll be covering that story and then beyond, of course. Next, let's take a local look. I think this could rate as the best news for Utah drivers that you're going to get this year. Big changes coming to traffic signals that are intended to speed up our commutes.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at some of our top stories this half hour. Scattered snow showers are still causing problems around the state.
They could linger into the lunch hour, maybe even the early afternoon. I think by evening hours, it's just mostly cloudy and temperatures topping out in the upper 30s.
KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says we could see a trace to an inch of snow in the valleys, maybe 2 to 5 inches at Alta. There is a very slight chance of snow for the next few days. Former President Donald Trump can run for president in Colorado. That unanimous ruling today from the Supreme Court, which says it should be Congress who decides who's fit for office, not the states.
When the justices heard oral argument last month, they expressed concern about the lack of a national framework for deciding who might be disqualified under the 14th Amendment. Across ideological lines, it seemed to be the view of the justices that individual states shouldn't be deciding for the whole country who can or can't run for president.
That's ABC's Stephen Portnoy reporting. When the Jazz host the Washington Wizards tonight, they'll be doing it without forward Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz star hurt his leg during the loss to Miami on Saturday. Sunday, the team said he will be out with a right quadricep contusion. Walker Kessler will also sit this one out with a sprained right foot. Your money at this moment, the markets have been in the red all morning, and they stay there for this check. The Dow is down about 99 points, closing in on a 100-point loss. That's 0.25%. The S&P is down just 5. The NASDAQ is off this hour by 42 points. Coming up, scattered snow on and off. Not just today, but it looks like all the way through Thursday of this week. We'll check that full forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Sometimes we have snow on the ground, sometimes we don't. I mean, it's crazy. But the one thing I do know is whether there's snow in the valley or it's, pickleball weather, winter weather is brutal on my family's skin. It just dries it out so much. It's the main reason, I would say the number one reason why we decided to give Connecticut of Utah a call and say, hey, can you come out and show us the difference that soft water makes? Because, we've heard that it helps with dry skin. They walk us through the science behind soft water, why it is so beneficial. And I said, well, how quickly will I notice the difference? And they said, you will be able to tell immediately. Once your soft water gets through the system and your water heater, you can tell on the very first time you take a shower. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And it has played a wonderful role in help keeping our skin soft and hydrated during the winter. So if you're interested in investing into a water softener, give Connecticut of Utah a call. 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600. They're an authorized Connecticut dealer, or you can check them out online at softwaterutah.com.
A happy place comes in many colors. Whatever your color, bring happiness home with CertaPro Painters and make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters, that's painting happy. During our spring sales event, special offers are available through April 30th. Schedule your home painting project today and bring happiness home. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
It already feels like home.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
I just elevated my checking account with Utah Community Credit Union. Tim, I'm so blown away at what I get with my elevated checking account at UCCU. I get so many benefits. I get cell phone protection and roadside assistance. The one that blows me away the most is telehealth. I actually get zero copay telehealth with my checking account from UCCU.
Did you know you also get a 0.25% loan discount? It's one of the many things. And if you like to travel or you're on the road quite a bit, a free ATM nationwide, 30,000 ATM locations that you can use while you're out.
Utah basketball star Walker Kessler and Utah Community Credit Union have come together to announce this brand new elevated checking account with more benefits, more savings, more online protections than ever before.
Yeah, there's even something for dark web monitoring, which I have never heard of before, but you can find out more by just going to uccu.com.
And open an elevated checking account online or stop by any branch.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank. We got emergency traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Heather, where's the problem?
It's down in Utah County, right at the south end between University Avenue and Provo and the US 6 interchange. Both directions of I-15 are a parking lot right now. This is due to multiple crashes. Now, almost all of these crashes happen southbound in the Springville area, but UHP has stopped traffic multiple times for up to 20 minutes at a time to try to move a lot of these crashes either over to a shoulder or off the freeway completely. But northbounders aren't going much faster either, coming out of Springville all the way up into Provo. So you're going to have to add a good 20 to 30 minutes on your commute through the Utah County area. Come explore Logan, hit the slopes, or rent snowmobiles. See a live performance, catch the Cache Valley Cowboy Rendezvous March 14th through the 17th with Western music, cowboy poetry, and dances. ExploreLogan.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Forecast for the day today, on again, off again snow showers. Matter of fact, that's the way it's going to be. 30% chance today, tomorrow, Wednesday, even Thursday, but a gradual warming trend after a high today of 38. Tomorrow, 46, Wednesday, 51 degrees. And right now in Salt Lake City, it is cloudy and 30 this hour. At the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, I'm Tim Hughes reminding you to listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
I think this could be the best news drivers will get all year when it comes to your commute. And I hope that this is the first of many changes to come with green lights, red light, green light. The Utah Department of Transportation, Dave, says it's going to extend the length of green lights along Lehigh commuter roads because they're trying to make traffic flow more smoothly.
Okay, remember, there's always two sides to this story. So as you said, red light, green light. So if they're extending the green lights, that means the red lights are going to have a longer wait as well. So as long as you're in the green light lane, you're fine. But how much worse does that make it for folks that are maybe on a less busy road, not doing that east-west thing? How long are they going to have to sit? And then I have some concerns about the danger. If you're sitting and you know this is a red light and this red light lasts forever, what happens? You start racing through the intersection to make sure you don't get caught on that red light.
Well, people should stop at red lights. I mean, they should just stop. So stop racing through red lights to begin with. We won't have that problem. Hi, Wyatt.
Hello.
Hi, it's good to hear from you. Wyatt Woolley with the Utah Department of Transportation. Let's start with Lehigh. Love that the Utah Department of Transportation is considering some changes because I know how busy it is down there. What roads will be impacted by this new change?
Well, we've already implemented the change for the PM travel times on 2100 North, Pioneer Crossing, and Redwood Road in that order a couple months ago, and it's gone very well. And now we want to implement it for the AM time, starting on 2100 North, then Pioneer Crossing, then Redwood Road.
How much of a tweak was this? Are we talking just a few seconds?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's just a few seconds per light. The goal is to get as many people through the corridor as possible. So as many people traveling east-west bound on, say, 2100 North or Pioneer Crossing as possible during those peak times. So it's a few seconds each light, but it adds up over time. And in some cases, we got the results back from the PM time, and some were as high as almost 5 minutes of increased time going through. Which is great.
Right. So put that in Debbie terms. When you say 5 minutes of increased time, Wyatt, do you mean that people are getting to where they need to go 5 minutes sooner? Or 5 minutes? Okay. Oh, wow. That's cool. That's awesome. Can you do the same thing on 104th? Especially at the lights, Wyatt, that are going in and out of like shopping centers at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't quite understand why I have to come to a full stop on a red light on a main road in and out of shopping centers. But this happens so often to me. I know other commuters are experiencing the same thing because I'm sitting there at the light with them. Are you looking, is UDOT looking at expanding this program to other areas?
We actually do this quite often, and most of the time we don't announce it to the public. We just adjust to the increase in traffic as demand increases in certain corridors or in certain times of day. They'll adjust things. But this one was significant because we saw so much growth in northwest Utah County in the West Lehigh, Saratoga Springs, Eagle Mountain area that we had the mayors call out to us and everyone calling out to us saying, you got to do something about this traffic. And the corridor was seeing so much travel. Our Pioneer Crossing really was only meant to hold about 38,000 cars per day, and we're seeing over 50,000 trying to travel across that road. So this was our solution to help mediate that problem right now.
Are you concerned at all that because these are green lights longer, that people are going to get impatient on the intersections when they're sitting at a red light? Maybe they'll try to rush through and not get caught behind a longer red light?
Yes, that's why we're reaching out, and I'm glad you're talking to us, and we're trying to reach out to as many people as we can to express them to show some patience and realize that we're trying to get as many people through the corridor as possible. But like you said, for every green light, there's a red light. And as much as we all like to have a green light everywhere we're going, that's just not always the case. Eventually, you're going to have to turn left at some point, and we express concernly that everyone do obey traffic laws and do not go through red lights.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wyatt. So good to talk to you. Wyatt Woolley with the Utah Department of Transportation jumping on the line live with us to talk about this new system that they're using, or they are converting from the afternoon drive to the AM drive in the Lehigh area, Pioneer Crossing, Redwood Road, 2100 North, where the green lights will stay green longer.
One thing, and this is probably not something that we think of often, UDOT, as you heard Wyatt say, they're constantly doing this. They're constantly tweaking how long a light is green or red. And if there is a problem, UDOT has an app, and you can report it. You can send them a message if you're hitting a trouble spot consistently. And you can ask them, will you look at this? Maybe the timing is off. Maybe it's a glitch, or maybe it's just, for the hour and the time of the day, like totally wrong. And UDOT will look at that.
Hey, I'm looking at the traffic cameras here in studio. It looks like we got a real mess there on I-15, some snow coming down, traffic moving really slowly. In just a moment, we're going to go to the traffic center and get you an update. So if you're in that traffic, that slow traffic, just hold it right here, and we'll get you an update in just a moment. We're also going to be taking live phone calls next, 801-575-TALK. Let's call out the roads where the red lights are red way too long. 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Taking your live calls next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
I'm Jason Walton, candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm recording from the Tucson sector of our southern border, and nobody's here. Our government should defend our territory, but President Biden, Mitch McConnell, and career politicians are funding war in other countries while the cartels are waging unchecked war here on American soil. I'm standing up to build the wall, end catch and release, and secure the border. Stand with me. I'm Jason Walton, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
This joyful sound is the No More Chemo bell at Intermountain Health St. George Hospital. And it means that Sarah Parker beat cancer. It also means her doctor spotted it early enough to treat, and that her oncologist helped her fight it every step of the way. It means that her nurse helped her keep track of medicines, and that a case manager made the whole experience just a little bit easier. Every time we hear that bell, it reminds us that all things are possible when we work together. It reminds us of the power of we. Intermountain Health.
I'm what you might call very good at hide and seek. This one time, my parents had to round up the whole neighborhood to track me down. It was a mess. A lot of tears. Well, now that we got Xfinity, we have Wi-Fi all over the house, including all my favorite super secret hiding spots. So I can kill time in here by streaming my shows and...
Ha! Found you.
The heck? How?
You left Find My tablet on.
This generation, ruining the game with their performance enhancers.
Get wall-to-wall Wi-Fi on the Xfinity 10G network for a reliable connection throughout your home. Now through March 21st, new customers can get started with 200 megabit internet for $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract, and get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless plan, auto-pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and Wi-Fi equipment. Actual speeds vary. Xfinity 10G network brings improved speed, security, reliability, and latency. Xfinity 10 gigabit service tier subject to permitting and construction requirements.
Imagine it's the final game of the season, but your symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, are making a comeback. What should you do? Keep managing your constipation with belly pain the same old way? Or try getting ahead of your symptoms by talking to your doctor about Linzess, linaclotide. Linzess is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually.
Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine, what could relief from IBS-C mean for you? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app, and we still have nearly stopped traffic on I-15 in Utah County. This is both northbound and southbound between Provo and the US 6 interchange in Spanish Fork. Northbound is the worst right now because of a crash just before you get to 1400 North in Springville. That's blocking the left lane and shoulder. A lot of people are opting to take US 89 in both directions through the Springville area. So not only is it snow covered there as well, but a lot of traffic, that more than they normally see it. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, the Supreme Court says Donald Trump will remain on the Colorado ballot, overruling the state Supreme Court. Second, hundreds of Utah National Guard troops are headed to Djibouti, Africa to serve a 1-year deployment. And third, a South Salt Lake 18-year-old is facing a murder charge after a fight between friends ended in gunshots. We're forecasting a high this afternoon, coldest day of the week of 38 degrees, and right now it's 30 in Salt Lake City. Let's take you back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Where are the red lights just too long for you on your commute? 801-575-TALK. If you can do so, give us a buzz. We'll put you on the air live. We're talking about this because the Utah Department of Transportation is lengthening green lights, the time that green lights stay green in the Lehigh area for the morning commute. Told us just moments ago they've been doing that for the evening commute, but now they're doing it for the morning commute with some success. Yeah.
Yeah, taking your phone calls, 801-575-TALK. And I will say, probably to the credit of UDOT, I can't think of one in my commute that is miserable.
Not even Fourth West?
Fourth West.
I don't know if that's UDOT's problem or not, but Fourth West and the downtown Salt Lake City area is like,
I travel it so infrequently.
Yeah, you
I'm
avoid
always
it.
Third West.
You avoid it. I avoid
Yeah.
Fourth West.
Well, especially when you're coming south. When you're south, or sorry, northbound on Fourth West. I guess maybe north and west, or south and north is bad, but largely I think they've tweaked it in a very good way. The danger, though, when you are really trying to open up things, and you put green lights for a long time, I think people see the red light. It starts changing. They're afraid they're going to be stuck at a light forever, so they will speed through the yellow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe red.
Utah already has a fair share of red light runners.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so if that becomes the standard, that's the danger you're playing with.
So where are they doing this at? They're doing it at 21st North, Pioneer Crossing, Redwood Road. We just talked to Wyatt Woolley with UDOT. Here's what he said.
Well, we've already implemented the change for the PM travel times on 2100 North, Pioneer Crossing, and Redwood Road in that order a couple months ago, and it's gone very well. And now we want to implement it for the AM time, starting on 2100 North, then Pioneer Crossing, then Redwood Road.
And the part of the issue was part of the reasoning behind this decision is because there's just so much traffic.
Pioneer Crossing really was only meant to hold about 38,000 cars per day, and we're seeing over 50,000.
So you do have to adapt, and you have to almost punish the infrequent travelers. If you're trying to go north and south and everyone else is going east and west, you've got to give priority to the busiest streets. I mean, you and I know if we want to go east and west in downtown Salt Lake, you just got to go to 4th or 5th South. Like that's where the best east-west movement is. If you try to go up First South or North Temple, then it's a little clumsier. So we know where the really smooth traveling is for east-west, and people adapt.
My most frustrating part of my commute into work, I'm here early, right? I mean, we get here like just before 7 o'clock. This morning I pulled in at 6:45, so I'm on the road by just after 6 o'clock, is hitting the downtown Salt Lake City area. I don't know if they've tried to sync the lights lately, but I know many years ago we looked into this here as a station about why the lights aren't synced in downtown Salt Lake City, and it just became like an impossible mess for them to deal with technology, and they just weren't syncing up. But the stop and go traffic, no matter what time of day that you're traveling in the downtown area, it's just completely annoying to me. And I experience it on 4th West when I come off on 6 South, coming northbound, jumping onto 6 South because that's where my maps wants me to jump off. So I, for years, avoided 4th West and came up to 6 North and then came over to 3rd West and came down. So I would double back to avoid coming to Broadcast House from the south because of all the stop and go traffic. It's still a mess. So for about a month, I gave it another good try. I gave it the old college try. I sat there light after light after light, and then I would clear the 5th South light finally, and then I would get stuck at the 4th South light. And then I would get stuck at the next light, and then I get stuck behind tracks. It took me like 6.5 minutes to make it,
like 3 or 4
off
blocks.
Of the off-ramp to Broadcast House. And we are just across the street from the Delta Center. So, what is that, 4 or 5?
Yeah,
it's less than a mile. It's less than a mile.
Yeah.
So I completely avoid that now, and I've decided I'm just going back to doubling back. But I'll tell you what else. It's 104th, whatever it is, 104th, 102nd, 106th South, whatever that road is through South Jordan it's just stop and go. I pull out of my subdivision, and I'm stopped at the light. And then I get back to the next light, and again, there's a Walmart there, and the Walmart at 6 o'clock in the morning seems to have right away when nobody's coming and going, and I'm stopped there. Then I'm stopped at the next light. I just don't understand. I'm not a computer wizard, so I don't know if these can't be synced or what. I just don't understand why at all hours of the day, 6 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, one time 10 o'clock at night, I was stopped at a shopping center that was totally closed. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
It would be so overwhelming because you've got to have computers that manage all of this, and everyone wants a small little tweak because everyone's schedule and their commute is a little bit different. They want the schedule that benefits them personally. So we are very selfish
It's so true.
in the way we want these lights to work.
Hi, John. John in Lehigh. Have you noticed a change on your commute? UDOT says the fact that the green lights are longer now is saving people about 5 minutes. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, I live right off of Pioneer, and yeah, it helps the people that obviously are trying to get out to Saratoga and Eagle Mountain, but people who live in Lehigh, it's drastically slowing down. I live on the south side of Pioneer, and our kids' school is on the north side, and we counted our family does about 8 to 10 trips across Pioneer, and at times you will sit there. Especially down on Saratoga Road, you could be there, 15 minutes, just waiting to make a left onto Pioneer to come down.
Wow.
Oh, that's a great point, because if those are shorter lights, the backup can't get all the way through. So you may be through several cycles before you get through, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you'll be 3 to 4 cycles in the peak time, and especially we have a lot of, we have soccer and everything going on down at the bottom by the lake, and when that lets out right in the afternoon hours, you'll be several lights before you can get through. And then of course up by 2100 is where it's always been an issue for people to get. But one thing I wanted to point out is there is that danger. Yeah, people are kind of pushing those lights, but the way Lehigh's designed was kind of to funnel everybody to these major roads.
True.
So if you're on Saratoga or 500 and you're like, okay, I know I'm not going to make 3 cycles, cars start diverting through neighborhoods to jump over to center or jump down to the next street.
Mm-hmm.
We have a elderly, villas where, that's a private property, and they're having cars trucking through during rush hour because they know if I can just get over one more light, but there's no thoroughfares going east to west other than, Pioneer, Main Street, 2100.
You're right. They funneled it so much that now it's overflowing, is what I'm hearing. And that's what UDOT told us. It was built for 35,000 people per day, and they're at 50,000.
Yeah, that's significant. And, with every solution comes a new problem. So UDOT's decided to make the traffic lights stay green longer in some spots in Lehigh on Pioneer Road where it's super busy. It was built for 38,000 cars a day or something like that, and they're now seeing over 50,000 cars a day. So it is messy, and it sounds like there's new problems that have been created by this.
I'll be fascinated to see how much of a role artificial intelligence plays in the future, where it's more dynamic.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. The U.S. Supreme Court handed down a last-minute decision today, giving former President Donald Trump the go-ahead to remain on Colorado's primary ballot. ABC News Supreme Court contributor Kate Shaw has the latest on this 9-0 decision.
There's a joint separate concurrence by Justices Sotomayor and Kagan and Jackson, the 3 Democratic appointees, all suggesting that the court actually went further than needed in this case, essentially saying the only way to enforce this provision of the 14th Amendment is by Congress. But the bottom line is unanimous that Colorado has to keep President Trump on the ballot.
President Trump has been saying a lot about this on social media, hasn't yet, though, addressed the media to celebrate his win. Homeless shelters across northern Utah were allowed to house more people overnight because of a code blue alert.
Overnight, the forecast called for temperatures or wind chills to drop below 15 degrees for at least 2 hours over a 24-hour period. So Salt Lake County was one of many where authorities issued a code blue alert, freeing up homeless shelters to house more people and for local officials to open more emergency beds. Later today, there's already a code blue alert in place for Cache, Carbon, Duchesne, Morgan, San Pete, Summit, Uinta, and Wasatch counties. Becky Bruce, KSL News Radio.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ, both trending down today. And our KSL weather, we've got some more snow before it's all done this morning. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Guys, did you know your testosterone affects everything in your system, including how you feel and perform every day? Right now, Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City will check your testosterone for free. Knowing your T levels is the first step in understanding if you have low T. Your testosterone level impacts your energy, libido, sleep, weight, hair loss, mood, and even ED. Maintaining an appropriate T level can change your whole life. Most men start to see changes in their hormone levels in their 30s. Experience and results matter. So what are you waiting for? Get your T levels checked today by local, experienced, and trusted men's health experts. They've helped thousands of men since 2011. They're so confident they can help you, they even guarantee it. Call Revive today and schedule your free testosterone test, free exam, and free consultation. Call Revive Men's Health at 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
A fiduciary has the regulatory obligation to put your best interest first. Trajan Wealth is a financial fiduciary for your investments. With Trajan Wealth, the more you make, the more we make. Our interests are aligned. Most other financial advisors are brokers held to a lesser standard and are paid an upfront commission to sell you something. Call Trajan Wealth
801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Once again, we're looking at emergency traffic brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, this is for northbound I-15 in Utah County. Traffic remains at a crawl as you come up from US 6 in Spanish Fork up to 1400 north in Springville. It's due to a crash, still blocking the HOV lane and left shoulder. The good news is the southbound side is starting to ease up. That had been at a standstill for about 3 miles, but they've cleaned up all the crashes on the southbound side, it looks like, and traffic moving a little bit better. Snow continues to cover many of the roadways in and around Park City, so SR 224 and US 40 are at a crawl as well. Save up to 20% off per gallon using Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Find a Sinclair station, store, amenities, purchase history, and enjoy a simple, secure way to pay for fuel. Download the free app today. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And our KSL weather, we'll see a few more snow showers today. Tuesday will be dry. There's a chance of rain or snow again Wednesday and Thursday. Right now, 31 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We just got notification from ABC News that we're expecting President Donald Trump, former President Trump, to speak any moment now regarding today's decision from the United States Supreme Court ruling 9-0 in favor of him, saying that states cannot keep the former president off the ballot.
That's a huge victory for Trump. A huge victory, especially the fact that it was unanimous. That is quite the rebuke of Colorado.
Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, this certainly didn't start as the biggest piece of legislation on Capitol Hill, but it turned out to be. It's all we talked about last week. You had full coverage right here at KSL News Radio of the 3 potential stadiums in Utah. One for Major League Baseball on the west side, one for NHL in downtown Salt Lake, and a new arena for the Utah Jazz, too?
Yeah, or some combination of the 3. We don't know if the Jazz and NHL is going to be built into one mega arena. There are no finalized plans. We don't even know if there's going to be a baseball or a hockey team. We could get none of these 3 built or all of them. But the gigantic question of whether or not we're even going to get a team, it didn't slow down state lawmakers. They wanted to make sure if we ever did get Major League Baseball, NHL, that we'd be ready and we could put the funding in place. And that's exactly what they did.
Well, let's break it down so we can bring everybody up to speed on what we know and what happened last week. Because I talked to some people over the weekend who didn't know this had actually happened. And I think the reason behind that is because it happened so fast and it was kind of smushed down our throats in the final days of the legislative session. So this did come as a surprise to people who didn't even realize that the state lawmakers had come up with a funding mechanism. Let's start with Major League Baseball on the west side. Initially, they were saying, we're going to use a hotel tax, and then that became controversial, so they withdrew that proposal, and they went with a sales tax model for that area once that starts generating sales tax, because right now it really doesn't generate any, if at all, any sales tax. So I think the final estimate came to it'll raise about $700 million, maybe, not quite the billion that they were initially looking for on the west side of town.
Yeah, and the reason that they got rid of the hotel tax, because essentially what they wanted to do is say, hey, we're going to tack on an extra couple of bucks every time you spend $100 on a hotel room across the entire state. That was the plan. But rural Utah, they didn't like that. They didn't like the idea of paying for a stadium that is 5 hours away.
About half of our visitors that stay in hotels are you from Salt Lake that come down to St. George. And I could not vote for a bill that's going to increase taxes statewide for this issue.
That was Representative Walt Brooks. And they tried to sweeten the deal by saying, hey, we're going to take a portion of that hotel room tax. We're going to give it to your search and rescue squads to help fund them when people get lost in, the national parks. But no, they just got rid of it altogether.
And then there's the NHL NBA combo package. And so here we have not only the Major League Baseball stadium funding that came out of the final days of the Utah legislature, but then tack on top of that, add this layer of an NHL NBA funding package. And it was Jazz owner Ryan Smith who tweeted out a photo of what he sees as the design of the downtown Salt Lake City area that really caught our eye last week. And at the center of that photo, there was a brand new, beautiful stadium, looked like something right out of the Vegas Strip. And on the front of that stadium, it didn't say a future NHL hockey team lives here. It said Utah Jazz. So that to me was the first real indication that we were also looking at either gutting the Delta Center and making it brand new, like a remodel for the Jazz, or the Jazz are gonna get a new facility to play in, and NHL is gonna get the Delta Center, or share an arena with the Jazz. I don't know. What do you think about
There's
this?
a million different options.
Okay.
I think the shocking part of it to a lot of people, as we were talking about Major League Baseball, so much. And that thing was progressing, and it looked like it was going to go through the state legislature. And then kind of in the background, we had heard about Ryan Smith going for a NHL franchise. We hadn't heard anything about the Jazz. The Jazz weren't any part of this conversation until last Tuesday when he tweets out that picture that you just described, and it had a brand new, beautiful Jazz arena. And here's the twist on it. And this is how it was sold, because when you look at polls nationally, we don't love funding sports stadiums for billionaires. We just don't like that. We want the billionaires to build their own stadiums. No billionaire is willing to do that. So they get the local communities and cities to fund it on some level, whether it's through taxes or tax breaks, whatever it might be. So when they announced, oh, this is a downtown revitalization effort, and it just happens to be built around a new Jazz stadium and maybe an NHL, that's where all of a sudden people started getting excited, and they changed the narrative. It was no longer about building stadiums. It's about building and revitalizing downtown.
Instead of thinking about this as a hockey arena or a basketball arena, we're not building an arena, we're building a city.
That's State Senator Dan McKay, and he was the chief sponsor who pushed through that NBA NHL funding package, which will be funded, by the way, if you missed it last week, through a sales tax increase exclusive to the entire Salt Lake City area. So it goes 0.5%. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's perpetual. Once it's in place, it's probably not going anywhere. So that's how it'll be funded.
They're going to raise it by 0.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this doesn't happen until they actually have designs and plans. We don't know where this is going to land, but it would be a 0.5 percentage point on sales tax. So it would go from 7.75% to 8.25%.
I guess the conversation that I'm most interested in now is it felt overwhelming to me all at once. All of a sudden, we're growing up, and we're going to get all of these major league teams. Or we're going to get a new stadium for the Jazz, and then we're going to get an NHL arena. So we got to go out and get an NHL team, and an MLB team is in our crystal ball as well. Which one gets first dibs? Which one? I mean, are we just building all of these all at once? How does that work in your view, Dave?
It's a really good question, and I think I've got my guess, but there's a real battle right now because Major League Baseball has the most ready, site-ready location. Everything's lined up. They have a blank canvas on the west side of I-15 in North Temple. They have it ready to go. Like, as far as the NBA and NHL, we don't even know where they're looking at. But even though we know very little about this new Jazz arena and the potential NHL franchise, I think that one is going to get done before baseball.
You do.
Yeah.
So the Jazz will get a new arena before a team yet to be named will get a new MLB stadium on the west side.
Yeah. And the reason, I'll go into detail here in a minute, but I want to hear from our listeners as well. We'll take some phone calls, 801-575-TALK. Which of these projects do you think gets done first? Do you think baseball gets the priority? Does hockey get the priority? Or do the Jazz get their new arena? 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Held over due to popular demand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Tomorrow's vote may seal the race for president.
The two major parties in Utah are taking opposite approaches.
Democrats will have a primary election.
United Utah Party and American Independent Party will also be having their caucuses.
It all begins by showing up. Caucus night is the opportunity to do that.
Super Tuesday. 16 states and territories vote, and more than 1,000 delegates are awarded. Listen for special coverage today and tomorrow. Plus, get analysis and reaction all day Wednesday. Utah's Super Tuesday Caucus on KSL News Radio.
Hey everyone, it's Joe Montana. Spreading the word about pneumococcal pneumonia, a potentially serious bacterial lung disease that can be life-threatening. If you're 65 or older like me, you're at increased risk. So, what's the game plan? A strong defense. Pneumococcal pneumonia can strike at any time in any season, so you shouldn't wait to help protect yourself. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination today and learn more at knowpneumonia.com. That's KNOW pneumonia.com.
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Now, during Staples Print Big Sale, get $20 off your print purchase of $100 or more, $50 off your print purchase of $200 or more, and $100 off your print purchase of $300 or more. So the more you print at Staples, the more you save. To demonstrate, print at Staples, you save. But if you print at Staples, you save. See how that works? Staples Print Big Sale. Print more, save more. Up to $100. Ends 4/6. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Would you like to be part of an important research study and receive up to $550? The Beehive study at the University of Utah is comparing how well two different FDA-authorized booster vaccines protect people against COVID-19. You can decide to get a booster or not and still participate. By joining the Beehive study, you'll have the chance to receive up to $550 for completing activities such as weekly COVID tests and brief surveys about your health. Call 801-203-0320 or email beehivestudy@utah.edu to learn more. You can also visit the study website at www.beehivestudy.com.
The Salt Lake Chamber is Utah's voice for business. Okay, that sounds great, but what does it really mean? Well, as Utah's largest and longest-standing business association, they support and champion community prosperity throughout the state. And if you're in business, well, that's a very good thing for you. Be sure to listen to the Chamber's Speaking on Business, weekdays at 7:20, 11:55, and 5:20 p.m. on KSL News Radio.
I'm Dave Cawley, investigative journalist and host of the podcast Cold. In October of 1985, a woman named Cherie Warren left work at a busy Salt Lake City office
to meet her estranged husband at a downtown auto dealership.
She never made it home. Cherie's car surfaced weeks later in Las Vegas.
In the parking lot of a hotel casino.
No one knows how it got there.
Strange. It was strange.
Both Cherie's estranged husband and her boyfriend raised suspicion for investigators.
I kind of thought that he might have done something.
But no arrests were ever made. In Cold Season 3, we dig into double lives, make new connections in the case, and examine the difficulty raised by reasonable doubt.
We want answers just as much as anyone else.
They have creeps like that now too, so nothing's changed.
That's the new Cold Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Now available anywhere you get your podcasts.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house. Whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the U.S. Supreme Court left no doubt states like Colorado may not use the 14th Amendment to justify removing a candidate from the ballot. The 9-0 decision, a big victory for former President Trump. Second, it got cold enough for a code blue alert for homeless shelters overnight. Third, a teenager was killed, another in custody after a shooting incident in South Salt Lake. Right now, 31 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're just getting word that former President Donald Trump will speak at 10:30 regarding today's Supreme Court decision that ruled in his favor, 9-0, that he can be on the ballot. There were several states that were challenging that, or voters in several states that were challenging whether he could be on the ballot based on something in the 14th Amendment. And those who were challenging him legally said, hey, look, he participated in an insurrection on January 6th. And so, therefore, because of the 14th Amendment and what it says, he can't be on the ballot. And the Supreme Court came out and resoundingly said, yes, he can be on the ballot. He can be on the ballot. So, well-timed by the Supreme Court, who usually takes months, if not longer, to make a decision. They came out and ruled that he can be on the ballot today, which is, of course, just ahead of Super Tuesday tomorrow.
And as we talked to Greg Skordas about this specifically, I will be very interested to see if this trickles down to all the other states. If all the other states that are trying to do something similar to Trump, if they have to,
it will.
Absolutely.
This is the law of the land. The Supreme Court has ruled. They've made the decision, and all other states, I believe, will just realize that the Supreme Court has made their final ruling, and that's it. It's it. He's on the ballot. Primary Super Tuesday is tomorrow in Utah. It'll be a caucus for the Republicans. The Democrats should have received, if you're voting Democrat, you should have received your primary ballot in the mail. And, of course, we're going to continue to have live coverage throughout the day today, tomorrow, and Wednesday for all the results right here at KSL News Radio and KSLNewsRadio.com. I want to mention as well and remind you that the former president, will be speaking at about 10:30, and we'll listen in live.
Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
So Dave was just curious as to what our listeners thought at 801-575-TALK. Where do you think the priority should be when it comes to building one of 3 new sports arenas in the Salt Lake City area? 801-575-TALK. Weigh in.
So I have 2 thoughts on this. I have where I think the priority will be and where I think it should be are 2 different things.
Oh, okay.
And again, you're taking your phone calls, 801-575-TALK. Number 1, I think the priority will be the new Jazz Arena. Even though this was the most recent
It was kind
development.
of veiled. It was also veiled.
Oh, totally
right.
veiled.
It was veiled.
No, this is all part of like a big
NHL,
master plan.
And then it really started to bubble up that, there's more to it than just an NHL arena in downtown Salt Lake City. This could also include either a rebuild for the Jazz or a remodel of the Delta Center.
I think I would be surprised if it's a remodel because they just in the last couple of years put $125 million into a remodel for the Delta Center. So I can't imagine them going back to that. I think they're really looking at a brand new stadium. Now, whether it's multi-purpose and it will be able to house an NHL stadium as well, that's totally a possibility. Because it directly involves downtown with a team that is already wildly popular, right? The Utah Jazz rule Utah sports. No one else is close, right? Doesn't matter as much as we love football, college football, everybody's a Jazz fan. You can be a Cougar, you can be a Ute, but everybody's a Jazz fan. So I think that's the one that's going to get priority. I do not think it should be the one that gets the priority. I think baseball has got to be the priority.
You do?
I do, for a couple different reasons. Number 1, the Jazz are fine where they're at. They don't need a new arena.
Yeah, but it would be super cool. I'll just put that in there.
Listen, I love new arenas.
I know.
Except for the fact that the experience isn't radically different. I've been to some old beater arenas that are just garbage, and the atmosphere is electric, and it's fun, and it's exciting. And I've been in some brand new arenas. I think of the Staples Center in L.A., where the Lakers play, and it was dead. Brand new arena, dead. It was a terrible environment. I didn't enjoy the game at all.
Is Gustavo around? He's our biggest Lakers fan in the building. He's
He'd
probably got a
admit
thing
it.
to say about that. You think so?
Well, in part because the Lakers and the Clippers shared the Staples Center.
Oh, I see. I didn't even know that.
So, as well as hockey as well, it's a mess. But
that does sound a bit busy.
Yeah, it is busy. It makes sense if you're trying to, utilize it as much as possible. But when you have multiple teams in there, well, then you can't necessarily decorate it with all your team colors.
Okay.
And it doesn't quite have the environment that you're looking for. The reason I think you ought to go with baseball and prioritize baseball is we're not talking just about a baseball stadium. We're talking about the revitalization of an entire area.
Yeah,
a
the whole
$3.5 billion investment in the Power District. on the west side that it desperately needs it. So I see that being the priority above giving the Jazz another fun place to play.
Here's where I'm at with this. After last week, there's like 7 days in a row where we were covering this when they first unveiled the plan to help support that through Utah taxpayer funding, and then out rolled the NHL NBA plan. Again, the taxpayer component to help support funding the stadium. And initially, I felt really overwhelmed. It just felt like a very, very heavy lift, a big ask all at once for Utah taxpayers. And it felt as though the legislature was rolling this out kind of at the last minute. And I have some heartburn with that. I do feel as though we should give people plenty of time, taxpayers plenty of time to weigh in. Whether it's a public hearing, whether it's an online town hall, whatever the case may be. But now I'm at the point where I recognize that this is happening. It's happening. And I have absolutely no doubt that the Miller family can go out and get us an MLB team. I have absolutely no doubt at all that Gail Miller, I feel like
is going to make this happen.
She's got the power. Yeah, she's
I agree.
Incredible.
I agree.
Yeah, she's incredible on so many fronts. And I think MLB is going to lean into Salt Lake City. And I think in large part it's going to be because there's this other, taxpayer component to it, which shows there's buy-in on behalf of the state, on behalf of lawmakers, on behalf of the governor's office, and on now behalf of taxpayers. So we're leaning into this. And in the next decade or so, we will have an NHL team. We will have a new place for the Jazz to play, and who gets first dibs on who gets built first. You know more about that than I do, Dave, and I appreciate your insight on that. I would agree with you that let's get this MLB thing popping so we can get this West Side revitalized and bring, I guess, more possibilities to the residents out there. But it's happening, and we will have a Major League Baseball team. I know the A's have been considering coming here at least temporarily. That might be a test run for us if they can occupy the new ballpark out in South Jordan, at least temporarily while their home in off the Las Vegas Strip or right there on the Las Vegas Strip is built. But it's happening. And so I've resolved that we are the new Phoenix, Arizona, because this is exactly where Phoenix was in the 80s as I was preparing to launch my career into journalism. And eventually my career took me here to Salt Lake City. We were in the exact same spot. We had a AAA baseball club and the Phoenix Suns, and that was it. We were always kind of the little city that could. And now they've got baseball, they've got hockey, they've got NFL, then they still have the Suns.
Yeah, they've got everything, and they've grown, and this area has exploded. And I wonder if they hadn't made these investments and courted these teams, because there was no guarantee that the Arizona Diamondbacks were going to succeed down there. There was no guarantee that the Phoenix Coyote, the hockey team, were going to succeed there. And I think there's some arguments of whether or not Phoenix Coyote have really done well down there. But nevertheless, they made the jump. And then this area has exploded. The surrounding area, Phoenix, Glendale, Tucson, Tempe, these cities have exploded in the last 20, 30 years.
So your bet is MLB, or your bet is Jazz will get first arena built first, and then MLB. But MLB should be looked at first. Because of what it does for the West Side.
Another little nugget why I think the Jazz might get it done, and I think they'll get it done here in the next 10 years before the Olympics comes, is because that would be a huge help. And if it is a hockey arena as well, then all of a sudden you get to play hockey in the brand new arena for the Olympics. That's massive.
And ice skating too?
Yep, ice skating.
Ice skating
for sure.
as well. Yeah, that's a huge Olympic draw, ice skating. Straight ahead, former President Trump expecting to react any moment to this unanimous Supreme Court decision that says he can be on the ballot. Even though he's faced several legal challenges in a couple of different states, the Supreme Court ruled this morning that he can be on the ballot. Of course, this ruling important because tomorrow is Super Tuesday. Also, straight ahead, as we wait for him to take to the podium any moment now, There's a new poll out that shows too many of you are just too worried about getting flagged by an IRS audit. Okay, I'm going to give you the odds of being audited. I think this will put your mind at ease and tell you what deductions can flag your return for an audit next.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Salt Lake City police have now released the names of the two men who died yesterday in a workplace shooting at Varex Imaging. The victim in the case was Hae Lee, 61 years old. He was killed inside the building, and officers say the gunman was 55-year-old Miller Ben. They believe he died by suicide. The case still under investigation. Police are asking anyone with information to please let them know. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Former President Donald Trump calling today's Supreme Court decision in the Colorado ballot case a big win for America. The court ruled 9-0 that states may not exclude someone from the ballot based on the 14th Amendment. ABC's Rachel Scott.
The Trump campaign was not only hoping that this decision would come down in this way, they were confident that it would happen. They called the Colorado State Supreme Court ruling flawed. They said they had the utmost confidence that the justices would ultimately rule in their favor.
Trump is in Florida at his Mar-a-Lago estate, expected to speak shortly on that decision. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, the NASDAQ also down slightly. And our KSL weather, looks like the snow not quite done. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Imagine if you could track your credit score anytime without impacting your score. Or imagine if you could know before you apply for a loan how it might affect your credit score.
Well, you don't have to imagine it anymore because our friends at Utah Community Credit Union have done that. It's called the UCCU Credit Score Toolbox, and it's right on board their app.
You can take the building of your credit score into your own hands. All the things that you can do right there on the app, like, you can correct errors to your credit report right there and improve your credit score.
Well, they told us recently you can even simulate what will happen if you pay off a credit card or apply for a loan, how that might affect your credit score. I've never heard of anything like it.
Plus, you get a free monthly credit report that includes all the information that you'd find on your credit file.
The third tool in your credit arsenal is credit monitoring, and UCCU makes it happen. There's no new apps to download. The Credit Score Toolbox is right inside the UCCU mobile banking app.
Available now for free. UCCU. Love where you bank.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
We're finally delay-free on I-15 in Utah County, both northbound and southbound, but the roads are still plenty wet, so that means traffic is a bit below the posted speed limit. Just use caution as you're driving from dry to wet road conditions. And in the higher elevations, like in Park City and through Provo Canyon, snow continues to fall, and it's blanketing the roadways. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, a few more snow showers today. Tuesday will be dry, but there's a chance of rain or snow again Wednesday and Thursday. And right now, 32 degrees, mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Supreme Court ruling in former President Donald Trump's favor in a big way this morning, just one day before Super Tuesday. It's important, certainly in Utah and across the state. 16 states participate in Super Tuesday across the United States. So Supreme Court ruling that unanimously that President Trump can be on the ballot, despite some legal challenges in a couple of states saying he cannot because of the 14th Amendment.
Yeah, they ruled in the opinion that states have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices. So this is very specific to the federal offices. They're saying states can absolutely say you can't run for state office. They still left that door open. They said states can't determine whether or not somebody is on the ballot for a federal office.
And their legal challenges hinged on January 6th. They allege that, well, he participated in an insurrection, and therefore the 14th Amendment, that article of the 14th Amendment disqualifies him. The Supreme Court has said, no, it does not.
Yeah, the insurrectionist clause, as they call it, it is tricky because there's no standard. When the 14th Amendment was written, it doesn't say that you have to be convicted of being an insurrectionist. It doesn't talk about due process. So there's some ambiguity in it. And I think when the Supreme Court came in to clarify it, which is exactly what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to interpret the Constitution in this case and the amendments, they were very clear.
We just got the 2-minute warning from ABC News that the former president is expected to speak. Sometimes we can be a little off on that. Certainly when it comes to President Biden, we are way off on that. But let's go ahead and let's fast forward right now through some of our conversations about the odds of getting audited. In the moment the former president takes the microphone, it might be 2 minutes, it might be 10 minutes. We will cut away to that. You can hear him live. And then if we don't get through this entire, I think a lot of people are interested in like what their odds are of being audited and what will flag you for an audit. We will certainly try to get this on later in the show. And if not later in the show, tomorrow.
Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
So let's just start here, Dave. A new survey says almost 30% of Americans are really worried about being audited by the IRS. Are you?
Like truly afraid? I'm concerned more than anything, not because I'm shady, but because I don't want the hassle.
It is a hassle. I've been there. Been there, done that. It is a hassle. It is an uninvited guest in your home. And they don't come to your home, but it's an uninvited guest because you're running around your home. You're trying to find out put all this paperwork together. And that's a whole nother issue we can talk about, what my experience was. We had all the paperwork. We just had to find it because it doesn't happen within 5 minutes of filing your taxes. Our audit plopped in a mailbox. I think it was a good year later. So you got to go back through everything and find things that the IRS wants you to show them in order to get the A-OK from the IRS.
I know you have some tips, red flags, things that could possibly interest the IRS in your taxes.
Today it was a very
Here we go.
Decision.
Former President Trump speaking now about the SCOTUS decision.
And I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs. And they worked long, they worked hard, and frankly, they worked very quickly on something that will be spoken about 100 years from now and 200 years from now. Extremely important. Essentially, you cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's the leading candidate, whether it was the leading candidate or a candidate that was well down on the totem pole. You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well. And I really do believe that will be a unifying factor because while most states were thrilled to have me, there were some that didn't, and they didn't want that for political reasons. They didn't want that because of poll numbers, because the poll numbers are very good. We're beating President Biden in almost every poll. New York Times came out yesterday with a very big poll for us. So they didn't like that, and you can't do that. You can't do what they tried to do. And hopefully Colorado, as an example, will unify. I know there's tremendous support. They've They brought our support up very strong in Colorado because people in Colorado thought that was a terrible thing that they did. And while we're on the subject, and another thing that will be coming up very soon will be immunity for a president, and not immunity for me, but for any president. If a president doesn't have full immunity, you really don't have a president, because nobody that is serving in that office will have the courage to make, in many cases, what would be the right decision, or it could be the wrong decision. It could be, in some cases, the wrong decision, but they have to make decisions, and they have to make them free of all terror that can be rained upon them when they leave office or even before they leave office. And some decisions are very tough. I can tell you that as a president, that some decisions to make are very tough. I took out ISIS, and I took out some very big people from the standpoint of a different part of the world. Two of the leading terrorists, probably the two leading terrorists ever that we've ever seen in this world. And those are big decisions. I don't want to be prosecuted for it. Another president wouldn't want to be prosecuted for it. It had a tremendously positive impact. It stopped everything cold. And sometimes you have to make, they were tough decisions. Sometimes you have to make decisions like that. When you make a decision, you don't want to have your opposing party or opponent, or even somebody that just thinks you're wrong, bring a criminal suit against you, or any kind of a suit when you leave office. I have that right now at a level that nobody's ever seen before. I have rogue prosecutors, and I have rogue judges. I have judges that are out of control. And it's a very unfair thing for me, but serving perhaps as a sample to others of what should not be happening when you make good decisions. And in my case, the economy was great. We didn't go into any wars. We totally defeated ISIS. We provided the largest tax cuts in history. We provided the largest regulation cuts in history. But think of it, no wars. We beat ISIS 100% of the caliphate. And there were no wars. We did a job that was great, but maybe I wouldn't have done that. The caliphate, defeating them, was very powerful. It was going to take 4 years. It took me 4 months. But it was a very strong dictum that I gave. I said, get them, defeat them, end it. We were fighting for 20 years against ISIS, and we did it very quickly. I don't want to be prosecuted. In that case, it worked out very well. There will be some things that perhaps don't work out so well, but I don't want to be prosecuted because I decided to do something that is very much for the good of the country and actually for the good of the world. A president shouldn't have that on his mind, and he has to have a free and clear mind when he makes very big decisions, or it's going to be nothing more than a ceremonial post.
That's
He'll be president.
former
It'll be a
President
wonderful
Trump
thing,
speaking partly about today's decision by the Supreme Court of the United States, ruling unanimously in his favor.
Yeah, it didn't take him very long. He said that this Supreme Court ruling really justifies his claim that this is all being done for political reasons to keep him from possibly winning another term in the White House. And then he quickly pivoted to another ruling that the Supreme Court will likely announce soon, and it was whether or not the President of the United States has total immunity. And that was the bulk of what he was talking about. What you were listening to was his claim that the President of the United States, not just him, but all presidents, should have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution.
But what today's decision did from the Supreme Court is it allows President Trump to be on the ballot in all the states. And some states had argued, because of January 6th and what they perceived as his role in January 6th, that he did not have the right to be on the ballot as a presidential candidate. Supreme Court ruling says he does have the right. And we'll talk more about this not only with Boyd Matheson in the 11 o'clock hour, but also with our legal analyst, Greg Skordas, because I am curious, especially when it comes to Greg's take on the legal angle of this immunity claim. Does he have absolute immunity as president of the United States when it comes to January 6th? The Supreme Court hasn't ruled on that component yet. They have ruled strictly on the fact that he has the right to be on the ballot. So we'll continue in our 11 o'clock hour going much more in depth on not only what the former president is saying now, but also on these other issues that he's facing as well.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
If you're just looking around your house, maybe at a ceiling fan that used to work, maybe doesn't work any longer, or the fact that you're eating in near total darkness because you don't have nearly enough lighting in your kitchen, Master Electrical, they can take care of all of your electrical needs.
I think you're really going to appreciate their upfront pricing guarantee. When they come to your home and they give you that bid, you're going to get a number, and that is not a phone number, a dollar number, and that is the amount that you're going to pay when the job is done. It's called Master Electrical's upfront pricing guarantee, and they guarantee the price from beginning to end.
Well, if we're talking about numbers, how about I just give you the number to call? If you're interested, if you need some work done, Master Electrical can be reached 24/7. They serve everyone from Logan to Santaquin. All you have to do is give them a call at 801-543-2222. Super easy to remember, 543-2222.
And how it's so convenient also that they're always open, including for emergency services. You can also check them out online at masterelectrical.com.
Do you enjoy fishing, hunting, or just soaking in the beautiful outdoors? Then you need to check out the KSL Outdoors Show, airing Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and midnight on KSL 5 TV. Outdoors with Me, Adam Eagle, is a unique show that takes viewers on a journey through Utah's beautiful backcountry. Watch it live every weekend or find the Outdoor Show on YouTube, KSLOutdoors.com, Facebook, and Instagram. It's the KSL Outdoors Show, brought to you by Camp Chef.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
2 years ago, Americans watched in horror as a crisis unfolded at the Kabul airport.
She was tear-gassed and beaten.
Images of thousands desperate to escape Taliban oppression filled our news feeds. More than 80,000 Afghans made it to America. But the story didn't end there.
It was very cold. There was no power, no heat.
Who would help our newest neighbors? I'm Andrea Smartin. In Stranger Becomes Neighbor, you'll hear the stories of some remarkable refugees who left their homes and their dreams behind, only to start over from zero.
Their only possession was 3 blankets.
And you'll meet Americans who stepped up to help them.
You want me to come when you deliver your baby.
What can one person do in the face of an international disaster decades in the making? That's Stranger Becomes Neighbor. Find us at kslpodcast.com, follow us on Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Trump campaign was confident it would win in the Supreme Court on the Colorado ballot challenge, and that's the way it turned out. Second, police have released the names of the 2 men who died in a workplace shooting at Varex Imaging yesterday. They were Hay Lee and the suspected gunman, Miller Ben. Third, forecasters say we're not quite done with the snow yet this week. 32 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, it was a messy weekend. Tumbleweed terror in areas of South Jordan and Eagle Mountain. I think you said it best, Dave. just before the show. You're like, I didn't realize we had so many tumbleweeds in this state. Did you see the photos that were coming out of Saturday's windstorm?
They were incredible. I had absolutely no idea where tumbleweeds come from, what causes them. That apparently in the winter, this is prime. This is prime time for tumbling weeds. It made me think about this old little ditty.
Drifting along with a tumbling tumbleweed.
That's not how the tumbleweeds look to me at all.
It wasn't peaceful
they
and
were
sweet
fierce.
and cute.
They were fierce.
And boom, it was 10 foot high, coming in the garage. Oh, close that door.
That's from KSL 5 Television's Alex Cabrera, who was out in the Daybreak area of South Jordan over the weekend and met with Stan Romero, whose home was like...
And boom, it was 10 foot high, coming in the garage. Oh, close that door.
It was a wild weekend, not only in South Jordan, but also in, looked like Eagle Mountain area of Utah County as well. But thankfully, it looked like the city officials, Dave, were gathering up resources. Because the first thing I thought of is I walked out my front door. It was bad enough my lawn chairs flew over to my neighbor's porch and my neighbor's lawn chairs flew over to mine. But if I would have walked outside and said tumbleweeds there, I wouldn't know what in the world to do.
Because they are prickly, they're pokey, they're not easily disposed of.
There had to be thousands of them. And in some photos that I saw, they were built up around like trucks and they'd swallowed up the fronts of homes. And in one photo out of Eagle Mountain, there were so many tumbleweeds in this backyard. That's all you could see was tumbleweeds. It became like privacy fences. I didn't know how, and they're horribly prickly. I don't know if you burn these things or what you do. South Jordan Mayor Dawn Ramsey on the phone. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are our friends out there in South Jordan who were surrounded by tumbleweed nightmares on Saturday?
We're kind of calling it tumbleweed Mageddon, but it is not the first time we've dealt with this. Yeah, I joined when Dave said I didn't realize that there were that many tumbleweeds. I don't think I did either, and I've lived here for a long time. I've had tumbleweeds blow into my yard every time we get major wind. But, with all of this undeveloped land to the west of us, I don't know. These things are growing like crazy, and for some reason, they all decided to find a home. The wind was pretty crazy. Debbie, you talked about how bad it was when you walked out.
Yeah.
It just deposited these things and blocked off entire streets. Whole neighborhoods were blocked off from being able to get through. It was crazy.
I was wondering how widespread it was because obviously the pictures we saw were very dramatic. Was this narrowed down to a handful of communities or neighborhoods?
Like unlucky homes were throwing
here's three bad streets.
Three homes that were throwing tumbleweed parties. I mean, it was kind of weird.
It was kind of weird. So I'll tell you, we used to get a lot of these in my neighborhood on the west end of town before there was any development west of us. This used to happen to us, but now that there's homes west of us. So if you go to the furthest western parts of our city, in the Daybreak neighborhood, and even between Mountain View Corridor and Bangerter Highway, there were a lot of streets on the west half of South Jordan that just got their fair share. It's fascinating to me. They must have found a route. Somebody asked me if the pit that has been dug for where the new baseball stadium will go, is that full of tumbleweeds? And I don't know. I want to go drive over and find out.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with the cleanup? How did you tackle that? Because there were so many. Yeah, it's not like you could break it down and just stick it in your garbage can.
No, Debbie's right. These are hard to break down. And I think one of you mentioned that they're prickly and they're kind of hard to clean up. That is true. And so we actually had 128 man-hours of city employee time come out to work with our residents over the weekend, and we're not quite done cleaning up. We are still cleaning up, but we brought out a backhoe. We brought out 4 15-yard dumpsters and 3 30-yard dumpsters that were filled with tumbleweeds and delivered to the landfill. We've made 13 trips to the landfill so far and counting. Like I said, not done. But folks put on their gloves so they could try to protect their fingers because they really are hard to clean up. They're not comfortable to clean up. You can't just stick them in your garbage, and they don't break down very easy. So it's a battle, but everyone came together. We just have the best people. We've got great residents and a great staff, and everyone came together to just deal with it and start digging out.
We have South Jordan City Mayor Don Ramsey on the phone with us live right now, talking about the tumbleweed terror that happened in some communities. And some of these tumbleweeds really picked on certain homeowners, just absolutely building up what I called privacy walls and just swallowing up homes. They surrounded cars. One home I saw a photo of, there were so many tumbleweeds in the backyard, I couldn't even see anything else in the backyard. It was wild. And not to even mention the fact that the wind in and of itself was just crazy. I mean, Mother Nature just bared down on us on Saturday. Were there any other trees toppling over? Of course, South Jordan is a little newer community when it comes to, big, tall trees. Maybe we didn't have as many trees blow over out there. But, boy, I live out there in Daybreak, Mayor, and the first thing I did in the morning when I woke up is I looked outside to see if it blown over any of the little trees in the parking strips, and it hadn't. Those had pretty much held up, but lawn chair furniture was everywhere.
Trampolines, they blow away. The street light, the tall post to the street light at the entrance of my neighborhood was blown completely out of the ground. And it's tall, it's huge, it's not light, and it's very secure to the ground, but the wind was so bad, it tore the whole thing completely out of the ground.
Is there any sense of what kind of damage these things left behind? I would imagine that paint jobs on cars were just getting torn up by all these tumbleweeds.
That's not something I've received much information about. No one's reached out and actually mentioned that to me. So that's a good question. It's something, if you did have damage, we'd love to know about it. I don't know what the city could do about that, but these things are rough. They are rough. They take their toll. I'm not aware of any real physical damage that couldn't just be cleaned up, that was going to be long lasting or impact property value or anything like that. It's just a mess. It's just very inconvenient. And Debbie, you mentioned the wind.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but our city, before we were named South Jordan, we were called Gale because of the gale force winds that we get.
It's a good thing I didn't know that before I bought the house. Gale. I love it.
The we develop, the less wind we get inward, but
I agree.
We still get it.
Yeah, it was crazy, and unfortunately I had to go out and drive in it on Saturday night to get downtown for a wonderful event for the Huntsman Cancer Institute, so it was well worth it. But, wow, Saturday was crazy. Glad everything is okay out there in South Jordan. Hopefully, fingers crossed for our friends out in Eagle Mountain who got hit with a tumbleweed storm. I do have an evil tumbleweed story, Dave.
Do you?
I know, thankfully, no major incidents reported, like anybody got hurt. But this was years ago, and it was super windy. I was coming home from the Costco in Murray, and I had the kids in the car with me. And I was driving back to our house in Cottonwood Heights, and I was merging from I-15, southbound onto I-215. I could see this massive tumbleweed rolling down I-215, and it had a mind of its own. I mean, it just was, and it was huge. And at the end of one end of the tumbleweed was a spear. I mean, it was in the shape of a spear. And I was able to maneuver the car out of the way safely and get around it. But I watched in my rearview mirror as this thing was flipping end over end, and it went straight into spear and a windshield of the driver behind me on the driver's side. Now, it went low enough that it did crack the entire windshield. I could see this happening in real time.
It impaled the windshield?
It impaled the windshield. The driver was fine, but I could see this thing. I was like, get out of the way of tumbleweeds. It was just the craziest thing I'd ever seen, because mostly they seem pretty innocent. Not this one. Man, this one was just on a path, and it destroyed the windshield of that car, and thankfully everybody was okay. Straight ahead, Boyd Matheson in studio to help us break down what former President Trump just had to say about his big win today at the Supreme Court of the United States. More in the 11 o'clock hour on that.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Breaking news reaction from former President Trump applauding the decision by the U.S. Supreme Court today that allows him to stay on the primary election ballot in Colorado.
I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs.
The court ruled the 14th Amendment does not allow states to disqualify a candidate for president, that ruling 9-0. Utah's governor is hoping today's decision, allowing former President Trump to stay on the ballot in Colorado, should turn the national temperature down and not up. Governor Cox quoted the opinion written by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, which also said this is not the time to amplify disagreement with stridency. Super Tuesday isn't just about voting for candidates for president in your party. The host of KSL at Night, Taylor Morgan, says a lot happens at these caucus meetings.
We are going to take some very important votes electing our county and state delegates, as well as precinct officers at caucus meetings tomorrow night.
Morgan says after the presidential preference vote is taken, other items of business will take place. Vote starts at 7 p.m. Morgan advises people to get to their caucus meetings early to find out where they need to go. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, the NASDAQ as well. And our KSL weather will be drying out, we're hoping. The snow not quite over yet. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Held over due to popular demand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Utah State Fair Park. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Utah State Fair Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Utah State Fair Park. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Utah State Fair Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Utah State Fair Park. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Utah State Fair Park. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
I'm Jason Walton. In business, I mentor hundreds of Utahns as they pursue their American dream. The same dream career politicians treat with contempt. They send our money to our enemies abroad while shortchanging our veterans at home. It's not right. They're letting drug cartels escort criminals and terrorists across our border. It's time to stand up. So I'm running for the United States Senate. Stand with me. I'm Jason Walton, and I approve this message.
Paid for by friends of Jason Walton for Senate.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you only have a 401k, you're not getting the most for retirement.
Wait, what?
Add a Robinhood IRA on top, then they'll boost it by 3%.
You can do that?
And if you transfer in any retirement account, you get 3% on top of that.
Is there a limit to the match?
No limit. Robinhood Gold gets you the biggest contribution match of any IRA on the market. Sign up for Robinhood Gold at Robinhood.com/boost by April 30th. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Match on transfers subject to additional terms and conditions. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
In Box Elder County, we do have a rollover crash northbound I-15, not far from Willard Bay. All vehicles are over to the right, out of traffic, and it is slushy on the road in that area. For a limited time, open a 12-month certificate from Cyprus Credit Union and get 5.25% APY. Learn more at any branch or visit cypruscu.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Thanks, Ricky. Our KSL weather. We'll see the snow taper off this afternoon, but still snowing up in the northern part of Wasatch Front and also in Wasatch County. But right now in the Wasatch or in Salt Lake City, just mostly cloudy with 34 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Well, the ruling from the Supreme Court of the United States came this morning, which, of course, is just one day before Super Tuesday. And it was a big day for former President Trump, the Supreme Court ruling that he can be on the ballot in all states.
I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs.
They said that no state could dump a federal candidate on a ballot. Now, there was kind of the 9-0 ruling, and then there was this 5-4 ruling where 4 justices asserted, and this wasn't just the liberal justices, it was Amy Coney Barrett as well. They thought that the court went too broad in its decision, that there probably should have been more nuance in what the states could and couldn't do.
So, Boyd, I'm grateful that the Supreme Court made this ruling today, clears up any questions just before Super Tuesday, because it's an important day tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's significant that they did it today in a 9-0 decision. The nuanced pieces there are interesting to look at, but the decision itself is 9-0, and that may be the most important thing. That is definitive and unequivocal. That everyone across the spectrum, and I had a really interesting conversation very early this morning with former judge of the D.C. Circuit Court, second highest court in the land, Tom Griffith, who's actually in Ukraine. But he talked about it in the context of, 1, 9-0 decisions are the norm, so we don't ever talk about that because we always talk about the 5-4 decisions. He said this was 9-0, and this was 9-0 for a reason, and it mattered. And he actually quoted Amy Coney Barrett in her opinion on that, of why this was so important. She said that all 9 justices agree on the outcome of this case. That is the message Americans should take home. She also said that the most important thing for the court to do today was not amplify disagreement with stridency, and that it was time to just turn the temperature down in the country, and that unanimity on this case was more important than anything. And so the fact that it happened today, I think, is significant. It takes all the other states that have been questioning or who have had a ruling by a judge or a lieutenant governor or whoever off the board. And so it's pretty clear in terms of what happens next.
So Maine and Illinois, who had done the exact same thing, they've got a reverse course as well.
That's correct. Yeah, he will be on the ballot there.
Yeah, former President Trump on the ballot. And Nikki Haley, of course, she visited Utah last week.
At some point, if Republicans really want to get this back on track, we've got to acknowledge that maybe it's him. Maybe Donald Trump is the reason we keep losing.
I never felt like her campaign turned into a hope that the Supreme Court would rule against Donald Trump at all. She's really stayed the course, but she's not, and she certainly has, I think, amped up at some attacks toward former President Trump again, and then tomorrow will be kind of a big deal for Nikki Haley.
Yeah,
right.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, Debbie, because I think there were some early on that were just kind of banking on him getting booted from the ballot in Colorado or Illinois or Maine or one of those other cases, and the fact that she stayed on message in terms of a vision, I think is important. I think it's also really instructive for us as voters. because we don't see nearly enough of that to say, hey, this is actually what I'm for. This is why I believe this, and this is where I would like to lead the country. That's actually a good thing, and we actually need more of that, not less in the country.
It's very easy to get sucked into the indictments and the rulings against Trump. But I think part of what this reminded me of, or may teach us, is the process has got to play out.
Yeah.
And what we think was justified may not have been. So people that were celebrating, yay, Colorado did the brave thing, made the brave move. The Supreme Court says, no, you overstepped.
Yeah.
We're going to undo that. And again, he's been indicted a million different ways to Sunday, but he hasn't been convicted yet.
Yeah, and that's one of the most – I'm so glad you raised that, Dave, because it's one of the things I think is missing in a lot of the commentary today is that part of what the Supreme Court went very narrow on is it didn't touch any of those things relating to any of those cases and just says, no, you can't decide who's going to be on a ballot for a federal office. You can't do that. They didn't talk about the merits of the case in Georgia, the merits of the cases in New York. They didn't go anywhere near that and said that process, to your point, Dave, that process will follow its own process and get to a result. Our job is to just rule on this very narrow thing. So, and it's really interesting because I've listened to people who really dislike President Trump, who you would have thought would have loved to have him kicked off the ballot, saying, no, the justices got this one right. And I've heard people who are big-time Donald Trump supporters who are saying, no, the Supreme Court got this one wrong. And so it's not an ideological thing. Sometimes we get all of those things conflated and confused as opposed to getting to the process pieces.
One thing the court did not do was address insurrection, the language being used. I thought, maybe was kind of hoping that they would have addressed that and said, okay, there's some ambiguity, obviously, here in the amendment. Let us clarify it, which is right in their alley, which is kind of what they should be doing. But they didn't address the insurrectionist language. We still don't have any better idea now what an insurrection is and what qualifies.
Yeah, and I think that will have to play out. The 14th Amendment and that third clause in the 14th Amendment will be arguments for other days and for other courts to really grapple with first. But they were just, talk about go to the essence of the process. That's what the Supreme Court did today.
Well, I'm always grateful that there's a test case, no matter what it is. So if there's a question and an individual in Colorado or Maine or Illinois decides to stand up and say, I don't think this is right, let's test this, and they run it all the way up the chain to the Supreme Court says, 9-0 in favor of former President Trump. This is great. This is how democracy works in totality.
Yeah,
and it does. This is how democracy works. We now have a definitive answer. We can all move forward. President Trump is already moving forward.
So I don't want to win this way. Look, I want to win based on my policies are better. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to
saying just a few moments ago, 45 minutes ago, that he wants the voters to decide, and I think most voters would agree with that.
Yeah, that's right. Across the political spectrum, the voters should decide.
Let's go. Let's decide. We're going to start deciding tomorrow. Super Tuesday. We didn't have a chance much to tap into your thoughts on Super Tuesday tomorrow, but again, I want to go back to what I originally said about Nikki Haley. I think this is a do or die moment for her tomorrow.
It's a big moment for Nikki Haley tomorrow. Again, you have 15 states will be up for grabs tomorrow. She got a little nice momentum coming out of D.C. She picked up 19 delegates there. Of course, President Trump won in Missouri over the weekend. So the score is 244 to, I think, 48 at the moment. But again, the magic number is 1,215 to become the nominee on the Republican side. But a good chunk of those will get divvied up tomorrow on Super Tuesday.
We'll see if there's any surprises here in Utah. Boyd, thank you. Appreciate you joining us. This segment of the Dave and Dujanovic Show is brought to you by Window World. Replace your windows and doors without the hassle or baloney. Call Window World of Utah today.
Next, we've got a legal analyst, Greg Skordas, calling this show on the ruling from the Supreme Court this morning that former President Trump can be on the ballot in all states.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that.
We'll get Greg's live analysis on that. And then the other thing that former President Trump talked about, will he get actual immunity from prosecution as well? Next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio. With interest rates coming back down, I bet the real estate market will pick back up in 2024. We're already seeing that, Tim.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter how the market is doing when you have the right team. So if you're looking to sell your house, now you want to downsize or you need more space, you need the Stern team.
The Stern team has taught us, I can think of a handful of things that I would worry about if I was buying or selling, but there are 100 details that are involved in selling a home, and they have lots of people that are handling every detail so nothing falls through the cracks.
And they have so many different options. I mean, I worked with Cammie there at the Stern team, and she was awesome. But if you need an instant cash offer, you can do that. If you need to buy before you sell, you can do that. They have flexible fees.
They also have people that they represent that are looking to buy a home, so maybe they can make that perfect connection within the Stern team.
So don't put off selling your house or buying a house because you think the market isn't just right. The market is right with the Stern team.
Go online to sternteam.com or just Google the Stern team.
The Cougars are fighting for their best chance in the Big Dance.
BYU's displayed its resiliency throughout this campaign.
The Big 12 tournament is days away, and then it's the NCAA tournament. This Wednesday, it's BYU, Iowa State. Pregame is at 5 and tip-off at 6 on Utah's legacy home for the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Is using separate office technology like business telephones, chat, video conferencing, and file transferring complicated and pricey? What if all of those things were bundled into one simple product that has over 99.9% uptime, crystal clear quality, and is affordable? And what if you could get your business telephone bundle from a proven office technology partner like Les Olson IT? You can.
Les Olson IT.
Are you looking to get a COVID-19 booster to stay healthy this cold and flu season? If you join the Beehive study, you'll have the chance to receive up to $550 for getting a booster and completing weekly COVID tests and brief surveys about your health. Don't want to get a COVID-19 booster? That's okay too. You can still join the Beehive study and receive up to $550 for completing the weekly COVID tests and surveys. Help advance research at the University of Utah while taking care of yourself this season. Call 801-203-0320 or email beehivestudy@utah.edu to learn more. You can also visit the study website at beehivestudy.com.
When the weather warms up, it's like a stampede, except instead of dust stirred up by hundreds of hooves, it's a cascade of phone calls to Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Soon as the sun shines and the snow's gone, people want new windows and frames from Utah's #1 custom window maker, and the wait for installation grows longer. But right now, you can get near the front of the line by calling for a quote and get $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. That's on top of the incredible savings for the highest quality double-pane windows and frames, any style, any color. See, at Advanced Window Products, they actually build the windows here in Utah, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. There's no middleman, and they can pass the savings on to you. They even offer buy now, pay later. So get in before the wait grows longer and get the $2,500 off. Get your new windows this spring. Make the call. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Imagine it's the last ride, but your symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, are taking you for a ride. What should you do? Keep managing your constipation with belly pain the same old way? Or try getting ahead of your symptoms by talking to your doctor about treating it with Linzess, linaclotide. Linzess is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually.
Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine, what could relief from IBS-C mean for you? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, former President Trump thanked the Supreme Court today after its ruling that keeps states from disqualifying candidates based on the 14th Amendment. Second, Utah's governor is hoping that Supreme Court decision will turn the national temperature down. And third, police have released the names of the two men who died in a workplace shooting at the Varex imaging business yesterday. They were Hay Lee and the suspected gunman, Miller Ben. 34 degrees and mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Former President Trump, about an hour ago, speaking on the Supreme Court ruling in his favor, 9-0, that he can be on the ballot in all states.
I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs.
I do think that that was an important part of it. It wasn't just a 6-3 ruling, conservative justices going one way and the liberal justices going another way. They all sent a very powerful message that they don't want states to make these kind of decisions of who can be on the presidential ballot.
I want to be clear, as we bring our legal analyst Greg Skordas on the line with us, Dave, that this did not impact whether the president, the former president, or all presidents have immunity from something they do in office that later brings a prosecution, as is in the case of President Trump. He's facing prosecution for what happened on January 6th, and the federal government has brought an indictment against him. So former President Trump also addressed this issue, which is a totally separate case, also before the Supreme Court.
Presidents have to be given total immunity. They have to be allowed to do their job. If they're not allowed to do their job, it's not what the founders wanted, but perhaps even more importantly, it will be terrible for our country.
So, Greg, separate these out during your legal analysis, and let's start with this case that was decided this morning, just, right before Super Tuesday, that the president can be on the ballot in every state. The former president can be on the ballot.
Yeah, what they decided, Debbie, was that the reading by the Colorado Supreme Court of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, especially Section 3, that is that the Colorado Supreme Court decided that what that meant was that people engaged in insurrection and who had sworn an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States could not serve public office. The Colorado Supreme Court said that seems fairly clear. They had a trial. They decided Donald Trump had engaged in insurrection and excluded him from the ballot. The Supreme Court said that may be how you read the 14th Amendment, but it doesn't apply to federal offices. The state cannot decide how to engage in that discussion as it relates to federal offices. So it wasn't a state decision to be made. All 9 justices agreed on that, although they didn't, as you indicated, agree on why and sort of the logic of it, but they all agreed. Now, that does not have anything to do with whether or not the former president engaged in criminal misconduct. That's a separate matter that will be decided by a separate court. The only issue that was decided today was whether or not states could preclude federal officers from appearing on their ballots if they had engaged in things like an insurrection, and they decided that that was not in the state's jurisdiction. They could not do that.
So in the 14th Amendment, Section 3, that's the insurrectionist clause that we're talking about. One thing that surprised me on this ruling, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is they didn't really address what insurrection means or what qualifies as insurrection. They seem to have punted that.
No, that's a great point, because the Colorado court actually had a 3-day trial and decided that there was an insurrection and that Trump did engage in that. The Supreme Court said, you're right, they didn't even get into the insurrection issue. They got into the jurisdictional issue. That is, does the state even have the authority to do that, notwithstanding what may have happened, notwithstanding whether or not Trump may have been involved in insurrection. They didn't overturn that particular decision. They overturned the decision that says that a person who has engaged in insurrection cannot sit on a ballot if they are running for federal office.
Okay, so riddle me this about the upcoming immunity decision, whether, and the Supreme Court is expected to rule on that as well, whether a president has full immunity from all things that they do while in office. Some have said in the legal community and beyond that perhaps the Supreme Court would throw the former president a bone and allow him to be on the ballot because they're going to slam dunk him on the immunity claim. And I think that might be a wishy-washy claim because I think there's plenty of argument to be made that what he engaged with really didn't have anything to do with his office once people started marching on the Capitol.
You're right. And immunity applies to government officials who are acting within the course of their duties as a governmental official, which I think is exactly what you're touching on here, Debbie. So immunity from prosecution for doing things that are part of your job. Well, engaging in an insurrection or asking people or sort of hinting or ordering, whatever you want to use the word, for people to march on the Capitol is not part of the presidential duties. Now, he's claiming my duties as president were to make sure we had free and fair elections, and I didn't think we were at the time. I was acting in good faith, and I wanted to tell Congress that they need to do the right thing. So he was claiming that I was acting within the course and scope of my duties as a president of the United States. A lot of people have said, well, inciting an insurrection is not ever part of the duties of the president of the United States. So it's just a matter of how the Supreme Court decides that's going to be defined and whether or not Trump fits into that pigeonhole. I would say this, Debbie, I don't think the Supreme Court is looking at one of these cases as it affects the other. I mean, these are two separate issues altogether.
I would agree.
But both of them do deal with insurrection, and obviously they punted on this most recent ruling. Do you think they'll take the opportunity in that immunity for the president to address insurrection and what it means there?
Yeah, I think they will. I think that's a good question. I do think they will. I don't think they're going to say that he is immune from prosecution for that. I really don't. That would be a stretch. Of course, we don't know what's going on with this current Supreme Court. Some of the decisions they've made have really been sort of mind-boggling. But this one today, I don't think surprised very many people at all. I just don't see how the Supreme Court could have ever excluded Trump from the ballot in some states and allow him to be on the ballot in others. I mean, some people may not agree with the decision or the logic, but I think people agree that overall, for the benefit of the country, it probably makes sense.
So we had efforts going on in Colorado, Illinois, and Maine to exclude former President Trump from the ballot. Does this ruling settle that once and for all so we can't have like some random state pop up? Like I'm not suggesting Hawaii or Alaska is going to do that. They can't pop up and go, oh, we want to try it now. So now that the Supreme Court has ruled, it's the law of the land. Am I correct?
You're exactly right. And other states like Maine and others are going to have to fall in line now, even though they have made the decision that he can't be on their ballot either. I don't think there needs to be a lawsuit. I don't think there needs to be other states weighing in. The Supreme Court has weighed in and said a state cannot make this decision on its own.
Well, Greg, thank you for joining us. Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst. This is fascinating. I thought the 9-0 ruling was particularly interesting, that it was unanimous. I appreciate you joining us. Thanks.
Thanks, Greg. Here's something else that the president said, the former president said as he was speaking about an hour ago about this decision.
So I don't want to win this way. Look, I want to win based on my policies are better. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to get interest rates down. You're going to be able to buy homes again. I mean, you can't buy a home today. The interest rates are so high. I want to win on safe borders. I want to stop wars. I want to stop the war in Ukraine with Russia. I want to stop what's happening in Israel.
What he's saying there is I don't want to win or lose based on the fact that I'm getting kept from a ballot. I want to win or lose based on what the voters decide.
Yeah, he said only voters can take out a candidate.
We've been talking quite at length the last couple of days about the stadiums that are going to be built in not only downtown Salt Lake City, but also on the west side, just a little bit west of downtown Salt Lake City. And earlier in the show, Dave said that he feels like it's going to be the NBA, the Jazz Arena, that will be built first. That kind of came out of the blue at me last week, that it's not only going to be an NHL arena, but it's also probably a redo or a rebuild, a brand new stadium for the Jazz, right?
Yeah, and mostly because the way they're framing it. They're not they're trying to take the focus off the new arena that the Jazz will be playing in and they're saying, oh, this is a way to revitalize and revamp downtown Salt Lake City.
So that you feel like the Jazz Arena will be first, but you feel as though the MLB stadium on the west side should be first because of the value that it brings to that community on the west side.
Yeah, it's giving another home to another family instead of you just getting an upgrade to your home.
And a lot of stuff going on with that plan as well, including like a redo of the Jordan River. They're going to have a river walk and some new homes and retail out in that area. So we invited Alex Curie, your friend, from KSL Sports Zone. He's going to join the show next to see if let's see if he agrees with you, Dave. Next.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Former President Trump thanked the U.S. Supreme Court today after it issued a 9-0 decision that keeps him on the Republican primary ballot in Colorado.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that.
The court ruled a state may not disqualify a candidate using the provision of the 14th Amendment that stops someone involved in rebellion against the United States from serving in federal office. Salt Lake City police have released the names of the two men who died yesterday in a workplace shooting at Varick's Imaging. The victim in the case was Hae Lee, 61 years old. He was killed inside the building. Officers say the gunman was 55-year-old Miller Ben, and they believe he died by suicide. The case is still under investigation. Police are asking anyone with information to let them know. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average and the NASDAQ, both trending down today. And our KSL weather, we're about done with the snow, but we'll see more midweek. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
It seems like everybody I run into these days has kind of the same reaction, like, holy cow, wow, you look great, which is code for you've lost weight, which is very much true. It's exactly what's happened. I've been working with Salt Lake City Fat Loss. The website is slcfatloss.com. And they told me, we got a secret where you can lose a pound of fat every single day. Now, most clients lose 20 to 30 pounds in about a month or two. I've lost 35 pounds in 35 days. So I am absolutely right on track. It's so much better than I had anticipated. It's easier. I feel better. And the results have been phenomenal. With Salt Lake City Fat Loss, their unique way to lose weight and get healthy. No surgery, no injections, no point counting, no exercising, and no prepackaged meals. The no prepackaged meals was actually a big selling point for me because I want to be able to do this forever, right? I don't want to just be on a yo-yo diet. I want to learn how to lose weight, how to maintain it in a healthy way. They teach you all of this at slcfatloss.com, slcfatloss.com. You can schedule your free consultation there or give them a call, 801-450-1882. That's 801-450-1882.
Rick at loansbyrick.com has some important information for anyone in Utah and Idaho who's thinking of buying a house. Do it now. Don't wait until summer because home prices in those two states will likely increase by 10 to 20% due to in-migration from California and other states. That means a house that costs $400,000 right now will go up by $40 to $80,000 with multiple offers. Interest rates may drop later in the year, possibly to the 6% range, but the increased cost of the home will mean that your monthly payments will go up by a lot. So start looking and buy now. Refinance when the interest rates go down. Waiting to buy your home will only hurt you in the long run. For more details and buying strategies, call Rick at loansbyrick.com right now. 801-809-SAVE. Rick can evaluate your situation and get you on the path to buying a home today. 801-809-SAVE or click loansbyrick.com.
Rick Kirschenbaum, NMLS 241179 and Vintage Lending, NMLS 287106 are equal housing lenders. Some restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a new accident in Weber County northbound Harrison Boulevard at 30th Street in Ogden. It's been affecting the right lane of travel. The UACPA supports certified public accountants in Utah through ongoing professional education and leadership development. Find a CPA that works for you, uacpa.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Our KSL weather, a few more snow showers today. Tuesday will be dry, but there's a chance of rain or snow again Wednesday and Thursday. And right now, we're at 34 degrees. It's mostly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
So it was late last week, but Utah lawmakers got the job done. They financed two different stadium proposals, one on the west side, Major League Baseball field, and then also an NHL/NBA funding package that got pushed through to the tune of about, give or take, $1 billion, financed largely in both ends through sales tax collection and sales tax increases. But taxpayers are going to have a dog in the fight for sure.
I will be very, very interested to see what year one looks like with the new Jazz Stadium proposal, because it's a 0.5% raise on sales tax. They think that it could raise around $85 million a year. Well, if that stretches out over 30 years, we're talking about billions of dollars, like $2.5 billion. That's before any inflation. That's $2.5 billion. So the funding there is enormous.
I thought your hottest take, Dave, had to do with the fact that you feel like the Jazz are going to get the stadium first, but your better angels say the MLB stadium should be built first because of the West Side revitalization that'll bring.
Okay, the Jazz have a home right now. They just spent $125 million renovating the Delta Center.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. It's a great experience. It's one of the top stadiums, home court advantages in the entire league. They don't need to leave. I know they want to leave. Everyone wants the new house, right? They're doing fine there. Why wouldn't we invest and focus on the Major League Baseball stadium, the development on the west side? That makes a million times more sense than just giving the Jazz the new fancy new digs.
Best friend of Dave Noriega and also host of JJ and Alex at 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, Alex Carey. Hi, Alex.
Dave and Debbie, how are you? Does Dave hate sports now? Is that what's going on here?
You know, since he's come over to the dark side with me on this show and we've gotten him away from the sports world, I've taught him how to hate sports. No, I love sports, Alex. You know that. I just saw you in the hall the other day and you said, I'm tired of these things being on pictures and photographs. I want the real thing to start.
Oh, yeah. No, I was like, our whole lives are built around renderings. Like everything is a 3D rendering now, and it's not even just that. It's not even showing the renderings of the new stadiums, and it's also showing other cities' renderings and us making fun of their renderings versus our renderings.
Well,
and
we got our own renderings.
Everything is in 3D. It's like, look at this. They had a really great. They have a really great graphic design guy. Yeah, the thing is I don't know. I mean, I grew up in a city where we lost a basketball team up in Seattle, right? And there was a lot of it that had to do with the fight about the city. So I'll just tell you, in Seattle, who were obsessed about their Supersonics, and still are, by the way, and they're one of these other cities that is lined up for NBA expansion. The next time expansion happens, it's a guarantee. It's going to be Seattle and Las Vegas. And for the past, since 2008, I think, and was the last time that they played in Seattle. And that's, like I said, a city that's obsessed with that team, obsessed with sports, have thrown tons of money at sports. But they had multiple stadiums that were on the taxpayer hook at that moment, and they had a hard time stomaching rebuilding Key Arena at that point. I think it's something else now, obviously, because they changed hands every 5 seconds. But that stadium's still there. It still sits there. It's just kind of a little bit in shambles. They still use it. It's right under the shadow of the Space Needle. And you know what that city said, who loves sports? We're not going to take on another stadium. And this new ownership group out of Oklahoma said, hey, that's cool. We'll take care of it. And then, no, we'll babysit it for a minute. And then, of course, they moved the team. So there are cities, even ones who love sports, who can't stomach a third, stadium. So that's a tough thing. It's an expensive endeavor. Economists don't like it. It doesn't look good on paper for economists. They'll tell you straight up, this is not a great investment for a community. But I do think that there is, anecdotally, for us here locally, it's just such it's an endeavor for us who don't have the same nice things that other growing cities do. And we're one of the fastest growing states in the country. So I think there's some of the things that go into that, and there's a lot of taxes that, it's hard to stomach a 0.5% increase on anything. So, I think that you always see how this goes. They roll out the number that is going to be committed by the Miller family for the Major League Baseball, development stuff, not just for the stadium, obviously, but the West Side overall. And then you also see how much money that Ryan Smith's putting in. And then the next day you get the rollout of, by the way, we're going to ask for $1 billion for each one of these, different proposals. So it's hard to stomach, but it's also pretty exciting to think that those ownerships are also willing to put up 2.5 or 3 times more. Some cities just want the whole thing to be subsidized, and that's just not. At least that's not what we're trying to do.
Who do you think gets prioritized? Do you think Ryan Smith and the Jazz, because they are the Jazz, do you think they get priority? Do they jump to the front of the list, or do you think this continued push for baseball sneaks its way into the first spot?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dave. The Millers owned the Jazz for so long. Now Ryan Smith owns the Jazz, but it's no secret that those two groups, while they are somewhat friendly about, hey, let's all expand, it's not a secret that they aren't. They're competing. Let's not parse words about it. They are competing against one another, and behind closed doors, it gets a little bit nasty periodically. And so they are competing against one another. And Ryan Smith's putting it out there. The Millers are putting it out there. The thing about baseball is they're not even going to move a needle, Dave. You know this, until 2029, 2030 is when they're going to maybe get another expansion. We might see an announcement 26 or 27 about that. But National League Hockey, or National Hockey League, the NHL is going to go. There's a possibility the Jazz could be having hockey in Salt Lake City next season or the one after, because of how bad the Coyote situation is down in Arizona. So I think that they feel like, this is a priority here because it feels like there's something that's going to be happening. Now they play in that other arena for a shorter period of time. They play in the Delta Center for however long they need to while it got built. But I think they're going to prioritize the team that they think is going to show up earlier. And I get what you're saying. I do think they are going to throw money at the development side before the stadium shows up on the west side. So
you do?
There is going to be money that's thrown at the now Power District, the ballpark neighborhood that's going to be over there prior to when the stadium gets built. That's one of the commitments that they've also made in all of this, the Miller Family Foundation. So I think that there is investment there before the taxpayers are going to be on the hook as well.
Alex, thanks for joining us. Excited. I think you're right. I think it's a race to see whoever can make the commitment first. Like, I'm going to marry whoever asks me first. That's what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. If hockey wants to marry me, I'll say yes. If baseball wants to marry me, then I'm in. So, Alex, best of luck. Good luck, JJ and Alex, 3 to 7 on 97.5 and 1280, the KSL Sports Zone.
Yep. Great analysis from both of you, Dave. I appreciated your insight, appreciated Alex's insight as well. And I would be excited to see some development come to the West Side long before we know if we land a baseball team.
It's a tough one. If they really do start developing out on the West Side, I think it is because they are so highly confident that baseball is going to land here. I don't think they do it. I don't think they dump in billions of dollars in that development if they don't have a secret handshake, real obvious wink that baseball is coming. because you have to have the crown jewel, and it's all built around a baseball stadium on that west side.
Straight ahead, a new poll showing too many of you very worried about getting flagged by the IRS for an audit. Well, I'm going to disappoint you in a moment because the odds of getting audited are so incredibly low. I think you need to take that worry and go worry about something else. So I'm going to tell you what the odds are. They're ridiculously low. And I'm going to also tell you what deductions can flag you, flag your return for an audit next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
I'm what you might call very good at hide and seek. This one time, my parents had to round up the whole neighborhood to track me down. It was a mess. A lot of tears. Well, now that we got Xfinity, we have Wi-Fi all over the house, including all my favorite super secret hiding spots. So I can kill time in here by streaming my shows and...
Ha! Found you.
The heck? How?
You left Find My tablet on.
This generation, ruining the game with their performance enhancers.
Get wall-to-wall Wi-Fi on the Xfinity 10G network for a reliable connection throughout your home. Now through March 21st, new customers can get started with 200 megabit internet for $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract and get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless plan, auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and Wi-Fi equipment. Actual speeds vary. Xfinity 10G network brings improved speed, security, reliability, and latency. Xfinity 10 gigabit service tier subject to permitting and construction requirements.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
The life of a small business owner. Keeping the lights on, calling all the shots. And then there's workplace accidents. 500-degree ovens, rusty nails. Danger lurks around every corner. Workplace accidents can happen, but there is an easy way to keep your employees covered. Talk to your agent about workers' comp coverage from Pi, or go to piinsurance.com and get a quote. Safety first, then Pi Insurance. Individual rates, offerings, and savings may vary, subject to policy terms and conditions. Not available in all states and situations.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Utah is a hub for innovators, entrepreneurs, and businesses, each with unique needs. That's why Offbeat Productions, a Park City-based promotional product company, is committed to offering creative branding solutions for businesses of all sizes. Owner Shannon Nellis joins us with more.
Offbeat Productions started out printing t-shirts for rock bands and record companies in the late 80s. Today, we're a lot more than just t-shirts. You name it, and we can put a logo on it. We create high-impact promos that attract attention and business. Our customers range in size from large companies like Adobe and Warner Music to local Utah schools and sports teams. No matter the size of the job, your project means something to us, and we stand behind it. Whether you're ordering 50 shirts for your team or 50,000 for a major event. Plus, at Offbeat Productions, there are so many possibilities for branded items beyond your traditional options. I always recommend putting your brand on something people will keep and use many times over, such as drinkware or bags. To view all of our offerings, visit offbeatproductions.com.
No matter your business's promotional needs, Offbeat Productions has a solution for you. Learn more at their website. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture, and then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day.
We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, former President Trump says voters can disqualify a candidate quickly, but opponents can't. He was reacting to today's Supreme Court decision that said the state of Colorado may not take him off the ballot. Second, the two men who died in a workplace shooting incident in Salt Lake City have now been identified. And third, 300 soldiers from the Utah National Guard are on their way to the nation of Djibouti in East Africa. Right now, 34 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Caught this new survey out by Wallet Hub. It says 28%, Dave, of folks across America, their biggest tax day concern is that they're going to get audited. They're afraid that they're going to get audited. I want you to let that go.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
Can I not let it go for a second?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can talk about it, but I'm going to give you a reason to let it go in a second.
No, I love that you're bringing some perspective because that's needed. But there's a real benefit to have nearly a third of Americans afraid or thinking that they're going to get audited. There's a real benefit to it because the chance of getting caught is a far better deterrent than catching somebody and then punishing them harshly.
Yeah, the idea that you could get nabbed by the IRS is scary enough that
you'll be honest.
You're not going to take a risk on your deductions.
And we know, if you talk to police officers, criminal justice, they know that the possibility of getting caught is a far better deterrent than punishing it harshly afterwards. And we do it kind of backwards, where we punish people really harshly, but it's not really a deterrent.
Oh, I don't want you to let go of this fear enough that you're going to start lying on your tax returns, okay? This is
good
not,
qualification.
This is not. This is
I needed
not
that qualification
to open the door for you to become a tax cheat. Kiplinger, right? Did I say that right? Kiplinger. Dave's like, I don't know. Usually, you're correcting me. Kiplinger.
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah. Wrote an article recently. 19 IRS red flags for an audit. But I wanted to pull this number out before we start talking about red flags. And they were reporting that significantly less than 1% of all individual tax returns get audited. So, Dave, this is why you have never been audited.
But
you are in the less than 1%.
Okay.
You don't, and you also probably don't file returns that have the United Nations of red flags waving off of the returns either.
I think I do have a red flag, though.
What is it?
You go through the list. I'll tell you if I hit the red flag. But you say less than 1% of people get audited.
Yeah.
But 50% of the Dave and Dujanovic show has been audited. So take your numbers.
That's right. I'm the one. It happened years ago. I was trying to think the other day, how long has it been?
Feels like yesterday, but it was really 20 years ago.
Oh, you remember it. And by the way, the IRS will not call you. They won't leave a message. They will send you a manila envelope, pretty thick manila envelope, to you and, if you're married, to your spouse at the same time. The postal worker will show up and they will hand you those manila envelopes, and you'll know. Because the return address will be the IRS, and they want you each to have one because they don't want the other one to be able to say, well, I didn't know about the audit. She knew. So, yeah, we went through that together. We came out just fine. And there's one of the things on the list that I'm going to give you about the red flags. This is exactly why we were flagged. They were upfront with us. They told us why we were flagged.
Oh.
And it wasn't anything we'd done wrong. It was just they were just checking to make sure we were doing it right. So let me give you some of the red flags, and let me see if you qualify for any of these flags. failure to report taxable income. So in case you don't know, the IRS gets copies of your 1099s and your W-2s. So if you file an income tax document that doesn't list a 1099 or W-2, they're going to flag that. They're going to know. That's not you. You do that. You do everything by the book.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, and that's what's kind of comical about this whole thing is they know exactly how much tax I should be paying, but they still make me go and jump through the hoops of getting TurboTax or getting a CPA. They could have just said right out of the gate, this is what you owe, but they want us to jump through the hoops.
Also, higher income earners, and I mean like way high income earners, tend to get audited more frequently than people earning
What
under
qualifies?
$400,000 a year is probably not going to flag for
Okay,
the IRS.
under
So,
400 grand.
non-filers.
Okay,
These are like the sovereign citizens.
I don't have to pay my taxes.
Right.
I'm not going to pay it to
yeah.
the man.
The Constitution, the Founding Fathers never said that there would be an IRS. You know, those people,
Okay.
they will start seizing your accounts. They'll seize property. They'll shake you for some money, and then you'll figure out that you got to get on a payment plan. And by the way, if you cannot afford your tax bill, don't run from it. Get in contact with the IRS. Trust me, you will thank me 10 years down the line. Get in contact with them and set up a payment plan now. Don't put it off anymore. They're much easier to work with than you might imagine.
I was going to say that's a surprising kind of an aha moment that they don't throw you directly in jail. You know, don't pass go, don't collect $200.
They don't throw you in jail.
That's where I think people are a little nervous.
I wouldn't say ever, because there has been some prosecution, but these are the folks that really avoid, paying their taxes for decades, and then they finally get taken to court, and they still claim they're exempt, like they're the one American who's exempt from paying taxes. Also, what flags for the IRS? 100% business use of a vehicle. It is a huge red flag. The IRS doesn't buy it that 100% of the time you're using your vehicle just for work and you're not loading up the kids to go to the soccer game.
And the reason that's important because you have to choose, I think, either track your mileage or put a percentage. So you can say, well, 50% of the time I use this vehicle for my work, and then you can only write off 50% of it.
So here's another red flag. When you take large losses from hobby-sounding activities.
I've lost a great deal of money on attending
collection.
jazz games.
Yeah,
Does
like
that count?
I think of like stamp collecting. Now, some people do that for a living. They buy and trade rare stamps. But yeah, it's going to flag. You have to show like a certain number of years that you've made a profit and it's an actual business. But if you're on there and you've got your hobby of, ATV riding and snowmobiling and you're writing off losses, it's going to red flag you for an audit. Early payouts on an IRA or a 401k too. Let's say you take a loan out and you don't repay it and you're not 59 and a half years old. There's a penalty assessed with that. I think it's a 10% penalty. So that'll definitely flag you for an audit. And here's the one that got us snagged, Dave, rental property. Rental property.
Okay.
And they told us that. They're like, hey, there's a lot of people who commit fraud. For example, they'll say they are collecting rent at $2,000 a month. But really they're collecting $3,000 a month and they're having the tenant paying cash. And so they're trying not to claim it. And so we went in there with all of our documents. Like we had to show them all of our transactions. We had to show them all kinds of information, like even how we set the price for our rental properties, like what comparables from the communities that we were renting in the neighborhoods. So we weren't renting it for under market value or something like that. So rental properties will flag. So are you in any of these?
No.
Oh,
No, none of them.
okay.
But let me ask you a question about the rental properties. Because you got audited, you don't own rental properties any longer.
No.
Did that play into it?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I don't ever want to get audited again, so I'll get rid of rental properties.
I wasn't born to be a landlord. Anyway, we got into
But
that.
auditing played a role?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we passed the audit with flying colors. No worries. This is more than a decade ago. No worries. I did document everything.
but
and we
still
were above board with
ginormous
everything.
headache.
Yeah, I was like a scam. I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even think about how to run a scam on this. I mean, we were there at any time the tenant needed anything, and we did everything right by the book. So.
And still got audited.
Still got audited.
Unfair.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News.